I'm very reluctant to go to stores anyway, and so I'm going to have to come up with a new pair of shoes. But if you see a guy walking around with masking tape,
I love it,
on a pair of New Balance sneakers, that's me. We used to do that all the time. I remember going out. I mean, just wrapping up sneakers with tape as if you were, putting the gloves on Muhammad Ali or something, like you were Angelo Dundee. All right, kid, that looks pretty solid. Go out there and knock them out now. Always embarrassing when you were in. I mean, and I can't tell you how many of these shots I hit on the opening hole, which was a fairly easy hole. I mean, I would have to say the fairways are very generously appropriated there at Shula's. So, I mean, you should be able to hit the ball somewhere where your second shot isn't going to be something that you need a chainsaw to execute. That little shrub that was just to the left of the women's tees. And you're looking out like Arnie Palmer, twisting the neck and everything.
Like you hit it far, and it's right there.
And then the other guy just laughingly, they're all cracking up behind you and say, I think you lie one.
Yeah.
The time. Wake up with Defo, joined by Lubie. Welcome to the Defo Show.
And a very pleasant good morning, everybody, on this fine Wednesday. Jeff Deforrest, Mike Lubitz with you here on Jack Namer's fine outfit, the Ion channel. We're very happy to be here all throughout the week, 7 to 9 Eastern, with a live show and all the other platforms that we have working right now. And it all amounts to, we got to keep working. That's pretty much what the philosophy is. Good to be with you, though, on this Wednesday. John Kajemi's going to join us later on. Had to do a little flip-flop. And now I wasn't a part of this because I was off gallivanting around town in Atlantic City and having just a fine old time. I already miss it, Lubie. I miss that routine of nothingness into straight degeneracy. And I don't know how many drinks I consumed when I was there. I mean, it was not like I was drunk at any time. But I was zombified a couple of times walking around a casino. I noticed I was one of the bucket people, as we used to call them, where now you don't walk around with a bucket anymore. You might have a voucher burning a hole in your pocket. And it's amazing how satisfied you can be having a voucher for $35 that just a few minutes ago was a $100 bill. And you're thinking, okay, at least I'm cashing this because, after 5 minutes of playing on some machine that was spitting out nothing but blanks, shooting more blanks than Cigar did in the breeder's shed, you are more than happy to at least have a piece of your 100 left intact. Now, that doesn't apply in any other mode of life. If we're on the streets and you had $100 in your wallet and all of a sudden something happened, a tuft of wind came up, blew the wallet out of your pocket, $65 disappeared. You're thinking, wow, that sucks. Life is really a drag. But in a casino setting, your thinking is entirely different. And I don't know what it is, Lubie. You haven't really experienced this where, in Las Vegas, I know this is true. You could drink 100 drinks in a day and not be buzzed at all. Is it the desert air? But this shouldn't be applicable in Atlantic City where, the weather is very much, it's a northeastern city. So if you grew up in New York, you're quite familiar with the conditions. Although I will say the walk of life yesterday in the warm ocean breezes of South Florida was far more comfortable than it was in the sort of Arctic wind that was coming off the bay there in Atlantic City, New Jersey. Although the weather wasn't too bad, but I'm still getting used to the routine. After I got done doing everything yesterday, I was going to crash for like an hour. About 1:30, I woke up at 5:30, and that never happens to me. And I was thinking, oh, good, yeah, I'll go to the beach or something. And I'm like, whoa, it's already like almost nighttime. So forget about that. So good to be back on track here and good to be with you. John Kajemi is going to join us in the 8 o'clock hour. Big news. Now, was this the big news that everybody was talking about?
Yes.
I'm not so sure that it's such a blockbuster, is it? The Miami Dolphins acquired offensive tackle from they got him in free agency. New Orleans Saints, former offensive tackle. Is it Terron Armstead or Terron Armstead?
I've heard Terron Armstead. I'm sure you can pronounce it any other ways. It was a big move. He was considered the number one free agent on the market to start free agency before J.C. Jackson, before Devontae Adams. He was considered number one because of the position he plays and how good he is. The problem is durability.
Well, and he has yet to play an entire season. He's been in the league 9 years. He's made a few Pro Bowls, and the last 3 years been an excellent player. But he only played 11 games last year. Now, let's not forget, they added in a 17th game. So he's playing about 2/3 of the ball games, and has not, as I said, that was kind of an interesting thing to read. Durability, vulnerability would be more like it. It seems like this guy, if you can't play one complete season as a starter in 9 years in the NFL, would you say injury prone might be a tag that they have to assign and ascribe to this guy? Injury prone.
Oh yeah,
All
100%.
right. So they gave him $75 million for 5 years. Some decent chunk of that is guaranteed money. And the other oddity about getting a left tackle of this significance is that the left tackle is not protecting their quarterback's blind side because the guy is a lefty.
Yes.
So your big problem is at right tackle when it comes to Tua. And you would have to say, and I know my friend Zach Albahay, who listens to the show, would disagree with me, but he has this totally wrong. And it's nice to know that my own memory. Now, naturally, I would remember my own instincts as a ball player a lot more easily than some other guy who was in his 70s who played ball with me 50 years ago or even longer than that because we were in high school at that time. And I told this guy I was all left, and there was a reason for it. And it was actually a good thing because most guys that are guarding and defending a right-hander are expecting the guy to go to his right, which would be his natural strength. But for me, it was a complete weakness to go to my right. I could do it, but I was not nearly as comfortable as I was with the little, head fake to the right and go to your left.
Okay.
And now Tua, I mean, if I have anything in common with Tua Tagovailoa, it would be the fact that he is also all left, is he not? I mean, he is all left, but he is a lefty. But anytime you see him roll into his right, you know that nothing necessarily good is going to happen. Right.
Yes.
He rolls left. He throws the ball while he's on his run to it. I mean, this is common of most quarterbacks. I mean, they're not good at running the opposite way. You see Jaron Allen running to his right. That's good. If you see him running to his left, he's probably in a situation that he doesn't feel all that comfortable in and is likely to do something stupid, like get sacked or maybe throw an ugly pass that gets picked off. And that's what Tua is. So the value of this guy, I mean, you would imagine that after 9 years in the league at left tackle with the New Orleans Saints, which, they did a good job of protecting Drew Brees all those years.
Yes.
And last year, I mean, Jameis got injured, but I don't know if that was the fault of the offensive line. I don't know that they were getting crushed. He was having a pretty good season before that at 5-2 as a starter, Jameis Winston. But, the value of a left tackle to Tua Tagovailoa is not necessarily anything close to what it would be if Tua was a right-hander or if any of his tendencies were even remotely equal, which they're not. I mean, if you maybe I'm wrong on this. I would imagine you could talk to some sabermetric guy and he'd be saying, you're dead wrong, Deforrest. You're making stuff up. Which I don't believe I am. Just from casual observation, it seems like Tua is almost always moving to his left. Is that a fair assessment, Mike Lubitz?
I don't know if it's always. I haven't graded it, but I presume he's more comfortable going left. I mean, that's
okay. Well, it's the second guy they've added on the offensive line through free agency, the Miami Dolphins. The other guy was
Connor Williams, the guard from the Dallas Cowboys.
Yes, Connor Williams. Guard, Dallas Cowboys. Very nice. So two-fifths of the offensive line have been addressed in free agency by the Miami Dolphins. They have a new coach who seems to know how to integrate the pieces into some kind of smooth running offensive line unit and also in symmetry with the running game. They have a couple of running backs that they added during the offseason where we don't know. See, now coming off a torn ACL, where does that leave you as an NFL player? You have any number of guys of significance, including there was a story about how the Rams are trying to do something with Odell Beckham Jr., but you remember torn ACL in the Super Bowl on that crazy play where he got stuck on the turf.
Yep.
And, it's a dicey proposition. Not as complicated as coming back. I mean, a torn ACL, you used to think, okay, that guy's never going to be the same. I don't think that's the case anymore, depending, I would imagine, on the severity of the injury, but because we have seen guys, Saquon Barkley, right? Torn ACL.
And he's not the same.
Shell of himself. Yeah.
He's not the same.
So we'll see. And Mostert's been around for a while. So I'm not sure, with all due respect to Brett Tesser, who loves the guy, and we do too, and the phenomenal game that he had in the NFC Championship game that put him on the map, actually, in a season where he should have been achieving some level of notoriety anyway, or notice. I don't know about notoriety, but certainly should have been a more significantly acknowledged running back because he was having a really good year.
Yep.
for San Francisco. And in fact, the oddity was that Kyle Shanahan, who should know better, and McDaniel with the running game, probably should have used Mostert more
Yep.
during that particular season. That was one of the critiques why do you have a guy that's averaging over 5 yards a carry and you're giving him like 8 carries a game?
Yep.
What is the purpose of that? And mixing in 2 or 3 other guys, but that was a style that McDaniel, the new coach of the Miami Dolphins, was using. He kept alternating running backs, even to an exponent of 3 or 4 different guys that they run into the mix. So we'll see how that works out with the Miami Dolphins. And that was the big news yesterday that they signed this guy, Terron Armstead, who everybody was speculating. I kept seeing all of this kind of secretive reporting where, they're working on something big. We don't know what it is, but something big. So I guess that was the big blockbuster move they made.
Yes, we were very excited in Dolphins fandom land. I've decided to not pay attention to the fact that left tackle for a left-handed quarterback isn't meaningless, but is nowhere near as important as a right tackle, nor his lack of consistent play because of health. I'm focused on they got a left tackle. Yay.
Oh, great. Yeah. Why don't they just bring back Richmond Webb if they're going to have a guy that only plays 6 games? I don't want to knock the move. You know what? It does seem like at least this, and we got this from Brett Tesser yesterday in his high praise for Mike McDaniel, the new coach of the Dolphins, and the symbiotic relationship he had going with Raheem Mostert, his client. But he did say a lot of interesting things, and one thing is I sort of deciphered from Brett's conversation that this guy had a more definitive plan maybe in mind than most. Because you always wonder, how is it that Eric Bieniemy flunks the interview aspect of getting a head coaching job like in 30 different tries?
Yeah.
Where after how many jobs do you think he's interviewed for, Eric Bieniemy, as a head coach over the last several years? He became a hot name. Everybody was looking at Mahomes, and that Kansas City offense was so dynamic. And they're saying, wow, here's the guy that's orchestrating the Kansas City Chiefs offense. We want that.
Yep.
We want that. This is what we want. We want an offense that is explosive, that we could be behind by 31 points and somehow come back with a fourth quarter rally for 35. We want that sort of thing happening. We want to be able to just lay it on another team early in a ball game if we happen to be hot at the beginning of a game, and we want to be able to sustain a high level of pressure offensively throughout the game, right? Very few 3-and-outs, a lot of excitement. A bomb, could be thrown at any time. No reference there to the Ukraine war. It's weird how you use militaristic terms when talking about football, but then it's been a while since we've had like a crazy Meshuggah war on, is it not? So, sensitive to that, but nonetheless, you want to have a guy that can throw the ball down the field once in a while and surprise you and actually complete a pass and be a threat to do so. We have had none of that here with this Miami Dolphins offense, so maybe we get a little bit closer to that with McDaniel. But it did seem like, and in the way that they proceeded during the offseason, that this guy came to Stephen Ross and Chris Greer. I don't know, did Greer have anything to say about this hiring?
It's so funny because people are lauding Chris Greer for this move, and I'm like, to me, this seems like McDaniel, all of this. Like, everything seems like they're signing players to fit the system he wants to run.
Yeah.
How is that Greer? Also, if Greer gets none of the blame when everything goes poorly and they fire the head coaches, why does Greer get the credit when things finally look better? Like, to me, the only thing that changed in this equation is McDaniel. It feels like you just said, he has a plan and he's executing it, something that we haven't seen on the offensive side of the ball in a long time.
You could picture this, though. And maybe it's a good thing. It probably speaks well for Mike McDaniel. If this was the case, this is just, what I've been able to sort of deduce from the moves that have been made so far and the different conversations we've had about this guy and just seeing how he has operated to this point, is that he must have come to the team and said, okay, here's what you guys need to do to fix this right now.
100%.
You need to do this. You need to do this. You may not get every guy that you have targeted or ticketed for in free agency, but nonetheless, you need to do these things in order to even have a chance to get better. Otherwise, it's just going to be more of the same. You have a pretty good team now. They were able to go 9-8 last year. They went 10-6 the year before. Not too shabby for a team that was completely decimated, stripped down to its barest of bones, and had a bunch of draft capital and a little else just a couple of short years ago. So if he's gone ahead and defined these moves and then gone out and tried to address them, then at least there's some rhyme or reason to the actions that he's taking. This isn't Urban Meyer coming in there and figuring you just curse everybody out and somehow get them to improve their play to go from like a 1-15 team into a Super Bowl contender with a rookie quarterback and a bunch of guys that really ultimately, for the most part, turned out to be stiffs. So that's good. That's encouraging. And that was one of the moves. I mean, so many blockbuster moves have been made in the National Football League, including this thing just a couple of days ago with Deshaun Watson, which now, I mean, I suppose a quarterback at any price would be the philosophy of National Football League teams, because the deal now includes 3 first-round picks, a third-round pick, and 2 fourth-round picks for Deshaun Watson. And the Texans also, well, the Texans gave up a 6th-round pick to go along with it now. So how significant is that? I don't even know what would be the reason for throwing in a 6th-round pick, just so the deal doesn't look so lopsided.
It has to match.
3 first-round picks.
Yes.
2 fourth-round picks and a third-round pick for Deshaun Watson.
And $250 million over 5 years, fully guaranteed, which we've never seen that ever.
Yes, for a guy that we still don't know. I mean, it's suspect whether or not the NFL, allows him to play. I would imagine at this point, you don't think the Browns called Roger Goodell's office and said, hey, listen, Raj, we're going to do this. You're not going to suspend this cat, are you?
So the reports were that they did not touch base with the NFL. I feel like that's a load of garbage. Someone did something and reached out to someone and found out, okay, he's at least not going to be suspended for the year. He may still get a suspension, but it's not going to be after all. There's no charges coming against him. I mean, the suspension can only be so much, and that's what they're banking on. I don't know. The whole thing was crazy to me. I was very happy it wasn't the Dolphins.
Yes. I'm okay with that. If you're going to be covering a team in your local town, I don't know. Do you need this aggravation every day about having to decide on a moral issue whether or not this guy should even be representing the great logo and the tremendous history and background of your Miami Dolphins? Don Shula, the Miami Dolphins. Just play me that cut, Lubie, because I need to hear it again. I really do. If you can find that clip on the fly here, I hate to ask for production in the middle of the show. But there was a time where the voice of John Facenda was in your head every time you thought about the Miami Dolphins. It was brilliance, and of course triggered by that we had the winningest coach of all time, and probably will remain so unless Belichick sticks around. Another 3-4 years?
Which is
that all he needs, Belichick, to eclipse Don Shula and his record for the number of victories all time by a head coach in the NFL, more than Papa Bear, George Halas. More than Tom Landry, more than any of the greats. Parcells is in the distant category compared to Don Shula, number of wins lifetime. All of these great coaches, Sean Payton, never come close. The only guy that has a shot, and I think a shot ever to eclipse Shula's record, would be Bill Belichick, who seems determined to erase Shula from the record books anyway. I think he sticks around till he's 90. If he needs one more win and he can't get it, he goes 0-16, 5 straight seasons. He sticks around till he beats Shula. Just to kick Shula while he was, just to kick sand on his grave. No? Belichick?
I don't have it here. I'll have to ask someone back at the station. They still have all of our stuff archived. I took almost
everything. They don't have that thing? Oh, my goodness.
I don't know where it is. I don't have
John Shula, the Miami Dolphins, completed a perfect season.
I took all the stuff.
That was a stature that we enjoyed. We enjoyed Facenda-like status as a National Football League franchise, and then it all went to shit. Yeah. And it's been that way for a long, long time. And, here we have an owner. Never mind Deshaun Watson being up on suspicion of illegal activity and criminal activity. What about Stephen Ross is still facing the assertions made by Brian Flores? Was Flores just making this crap up? I mean, where does that stand right now? There seems to be very little concern about any of that.
Yeah, that's not
NFL. I mean, how's that NFL investigation going? Have they sat down with Flores and said, so what is this all about, Brian? Come on. You're back in the league. Tomlin threw you a break. The Rooneys, of course, were the only ones that came to salvage the career of one of the few black head coaches in the league that had experience. And now, if he was ever a candidate for a head coaching job again, that's the other question. Does Flores ever get another head coaching job? Did you hear Tesler yesterday talking about all of a sudden a lot more stuff is coming to light? And he was saying that Flores had differences with everybody.
Oh yeah,
Didn't matter who it was. He was
Agents.
arguing with
fighting with agents.
agents. Yeah, agents, players, cheerleaders.
Everyone.
Anybody. I mean, vendors. Hey, listen. He probably yelled at the guy. Did that guy check out the guy that had the elephant hat on that was selling peanuts? Oh, no, he sold beer at the stadium. You know the guy I'm talking about? I think he checked out.
No idea.
I believe he did. I believe this gentleman died at a very young age, and he was one of the few characters you had there in the stands there, right? Because he wore the elephant hat and he was selling those $13 beers, right? I take 2. Yeah, that's 26. Like, what? 26?
Like that should be 5 beers.
I did pay $8 for a bottle of beer at the sports bar at the Borgata, which I thought that was a little bit of a setback, huh? I mean, even though you're winning thousands, who wants to spend $8 for a bottle of Budweiser? Come on, man. Then you got to throw the guy the other deuce, otherwise you'll look like an asshole.
Yep.
Incredible.
Yeah.
All right, many things happening, and there are other sports also involved. So we'll get into that with John Congemi. Dateline Dolphins will be very interesting today, and so many other things happening around the National Football League, signings and defections and people going to different teams, and we don't know what's going to happen with Baker Mayfield. Would you take Baker Mayfield over Tua Tagovailoa?
No.
Mike Lubitz. Would you rather have next year, starting for you, Baker Mayfield or Tua?
No, I'd rather have Tua.
You would rather have Tua.
I don't think Baker's as bad as he's being made to seem now, like where he's going to be an automatic backup and no one wants him. I mean, I think he's better than that. Look, the Browns supposedly had everything.
2 years ago, he looked pretty good. I mean, last year wasn't so great for him, but he was injured and he still played.
Like, it's just Tua hasn't had everything around him yet, so I still have room to say what could be. Baker Mayfield supposedly had all the talent in the world around him, and the Browns weren't great. Like, the Browns struggled. They finally, sort of made it into the playoffs and were in the discussion, but they were not. They were supposed to be a Super Bowl contender, and it wasn't a joke. Like, they went into that season with more expectations than the Bengals.
Yeah.
And they found their way in the Super Bowl, and the Browns were far from that. So that the blame sort of goes on Baker. Like, they had a good defense, they had receivers, they had a really good running game, they had an offensive line. Like, people like their coach. So at that point, it's hard to not blame him. I just think it just didn't work for him. But I don't see him as his career backup. Like, he's not. I think he's better than Mitch Trubisky. Like, I think the guy is better than that.
All right. People were high on Trubisky, not you. And we tend to, get locked in judging somebody or a player on what happened when maybe they were in a negative situation, and then you never get past that. Like people are going to think of Baker Mayfield, the number 1 overall pick in the draft, as a bust, are they not? Semi-bust?
Yeah, if he doesn't make a second contract.
Yeah. You let him go. You took the number 1 overall quarterback. Now, there were other guys in that draft that turned out to be much better. No doubt about it. And so it does appear and loom like they made a large mistake there, although there were a lot of mistakes there made at the top. Where's Sam Darnold today?
Well, that's the thing. It's Allen and Lamar Jackson have turned out to be, it seems like, franchise quarterback, even though Lamar Jackson still actually has a lot of question marks.
Lamar Jackson now, is wearing question marks. No?
Well, finally, people are seeing what I saw. Like, the guy's a great athlete, and if he has tons of time and a great running game, he can throw that deep ball. But if you need him to be an intermediate, from the pocket quarterback, he's not good at that. But Josh Allen's turned into like a top 4 quarterback in the NFL.
Yeah, I said Jared Allen earlier. Josh Allen, yeah.
Jared Allen was a defensive end for the Vikings. Yeah. But you also have Sam Darnold, who has been a clear bust at this point. You had Josh Rosen, who bust may be a positive term. He's never even done anything. Josh Rosen,
not even worthy of bust. Yeah,
exactly.
Certainly not in Canton. That's for sure.
And Mayfield feels like, look, and he's had some success. Mayfield, he set rookie records. But if you can't get to your second contract as the number 1 pick, where they usually always, even Jameis made a second contract, they usually automatically give you a second contract. Like, if you don't get your second contract, they're making trades like that in your face. When you're on progressive commercials, that's literally everyone's question.
Well, think about this. I mean, at that point, he was actually 4 first-round picks in a sense.
Yes, yeah, he was the first round.
They used one on him, and then they had to deal 3 more to get rid of him, and find a solution out of it. So that's ugliness. If he had worked out, they still have their 3 first-round picks, and looks like they had made good use of the one that they had when they had the first one overall. Yeah. That's the mark of a crappy franchise, and it's always something that stinks at the top, not always at the bottom. Right. And that could be the case. That could well be the case with Stephen Ross and what appears to be, I'm your puppet, His yes man, Chris Greer, who I don't know, does he sit silently at these meetings when they're interviewing these guys? And what does Stephen Ross know about football that he would be the guy conducting the interview?
I think
Or
if
does he allow Chris Greer to ask the questions and then he just sits there and makes observations? Here, ask him this, Chris.
my problem is whenever there's like a presser, Chris Greer never talks. So if he was the GM,
No.
he'd be the first guy, right? Doesn't the GM introduce maybe the owner and introduce the player? It's usually Ross or like Garfinkel. Like Greer's never, half the time he's not there at all. And the other
He's
time
wearing a suit and a Dolphins hat, and he looks kind of goofy in that. And he appears to be like just a guy that was Peter principled into a job. Like he was the owner's son or something, and he's running the team there.
Look, I'm not even trying to be a jerk, but there's a reason everyone gets fired but him. So fine. Yeah. Then when things go good, it's not like, well, he must have figured it out. He didn't magically figure it out, guys.
Stephen Jones looks like George Young compared to, if you could picture that Chris Greer was Stephen Ross's son, and he just happened to be, by blatant blind nepotism, assigned to a job that he otherwise has no business being in. He should have gone into like a whole nother career. All right, John Kachemia joined us. A lot of things in the National Football League. Ashley Barty, I don't know if you're familiar with Ashley Barty. She was
I do shows
the
with you.
number one women's tennis player in the world, and she'd been there for quite some time. She has retired before. I don't know if she's going to pull a Brady here, but she retires at the age of 25.
Harvey said something last week that was interesting. Or was it? Yeah, because he didn't join us this week, about how she doesn't like leaving Australia. Like, I don't even know what that means. So
I'm like to travel out of the country. What's wrong with that?
I'm not judging her. What I'm saying is, how can you be a top tennis player and most of the tennis happens away from Australia?
You can.
Yeah, okay. When he said that, I was like, okay, I don't know what to do with that.
You know, it's funny. I was watching a little bit of Tennis Channel last night, and it was interesting. They had Andy Roddick on, who, of course, we feel, a connection to because, he was a Florida original.
Yep.
And was, a child prodigy and, did fulfill, I don't know that he fulfilled all of the promise that he had. But, he was accomplished enough for you to respect what he did as a professional. If there wasn't all this hype surrounding him coming up, and, there have been others that have been victimized by this same sort of thing where there was so much hype when they were very young that it was going to be almost impossible to fulfill all of that potential. I mean, it would have been the case with Andre Agassi. He would have been deemed a bust. I mean, so much hype around this guy. And had he not fallen off the cliff and then come back.
Yep.
And, became one of the top players in the game and one of the top, I don't know if he was top all time, but you certainly could include him in that discussion of top 10 all time. I don't know about top 10 all time, but a great player.
A lot of Grand Slams. Like, if you look at his record, he's around top 10. You're not putting him with Laver or Sampras.
No. But he was great. I mean, he came back and he certainly fulfilled whatever potential that people had anticipated for him. But almost in a second career. The first go-round didn't go so smoothly, and, he flamed out. And eventually, I mean, he was like doing meth on, the back streets of Las Vegas. He might have been hanging out in that area by Johnny's Silver Dollar there, or whatever the casino was, where, the cabbie wouldn't even take me there. And he turned around and said, like, hey, listen, Sonny Liston didn't even walk into this neighborhood. Like, Sonny Liston? Who else makes Sonny Liston references besides me?
And then you see Agassi.
Bert Sugar? I don't know. But if he's referencing Sonny Liston and he's talking about not coming into this neighborhood, I want no part of it, right?
That's not good.
But I love the whole deal of calling boxing so much. I was willing. See, now that's when you know you love something. If you're willing to risk your life to go ahead and do it.
And I must really love this. I've done that a few times. I do that every day.
Yeah. You're willing to risk your life to go out and do it, then it's good. Jack, here we are. We're willing to risk our lives to do this job.
I'm risking everything.
Financially, could be in ruin pretty quickly. I considered Mustangs, 10 large, there to be income this month.
Yeah, I was going to say.
As opposed to just frivolous gambling money. It was like, oh, good. Well, we finally are making a living here.
Exactly.
If you could just do this every month, we'll be okay. So anyway, all right, a lot to talk about. Ashley Barty retires. If you don't like to travel, Roddick was saying, they were talking about the circuit there because Nadal ended up playing that final against Taylor Fritz, the American, who had a breakthrough win at Indian Wells. And Fritz was on the razor's edge the entire time in that tournament. I happened to see a couple of his matches, and he played very well. Certainly was deserving of winning the title there, but he was in third set tiebreakers in back-to-back matches that easily, I mean, obviously the tiebreaker could go either way, but I mean, these were really teetering on the balance and were, definitely a flip of the coin as to who was going to win the match. And I was in a couple of the earlier rounds, and then he catches Nadal, and Nadal has ripped some muscle in his rib cage, tantamount to trying to go out there and playing with like a broken rib. Can you imagine? And it seemed like it was on his left side, which he's a lefty, and I don't know how the hell he even toughed it out to play the match against Fritz, which he did, and it wasn't like he got blown out either in the final. But Nadal's going to miss a few weeks, so they were talking about what he's going to miss, and if you're linking this back to the whole discussion about Ashley Barty, who doesn't like to leave her home country. They were talking about, well, you know what? I don't know if he's going to be there for Spain, for Monte Carlo, for this, for that. And I mean, they were traveling all over the world before they even got to the French Open, which is in Paris. All right. So they were going to be in like 5 different countries over the next few weeks on the tennis circuit, which sounds very glamorous, Lubie. But if you don't want to leave home,
yeah, you can't do that.
How the hell do you deal with that? You're on the road constantly and always in a new place and having to go through this really regimented routine. And you would imagine that with tennis players, they try to keep, except for Kyrgios, right, who's here in Miami right now, playing the Miami Open, which is already underway. Did you know that, Lubie? It's already underway. They're having like first-round matches.
Wow, that's crazy.
Yeah, it was underway yesterday.
Nice.
Already like first-round matches being played. So that's going on. And, I mean, can you keep these guys out of the late-night class? I guess you can now because they put like a midnight curfew in, didn't they, on South Beach? Can you imagine that?
They have Ultra next weekend, which is literally the definition of a party, and they want them to end it by 12. The concert doesn't end till 12.
Yeah. No, people. There's another area in South Florida that was developed that used to be, almost ghetto-esque, and that's that Wynwood area.
Yeah. Well, now, yeah, it was,
and they were salivating because they were saying, I think they even stuffed a ballot box at the Miami Beach Commission meeting where they decided to shut down South Beach at midnight because I mean, there's always it almost sounds like a matter of routine, and you're waiting for it to happen. Where the news story comes up about not that you're an advocate of this, but unfortunately this has been the way of the world for the last last 20 years or so. But the South Beach thing always ends up in some kind of ugly violence.
Yep.
When the spring breakers come to town.
Yes. Yep.
Yeah, and I guess there were some shots fired right there on the streets, and everybody got as they should be alarmed about that. And so they instituted a curfew, and the people from the other area now that everybody's going to gravitate towards while all these kids are in town, we're like celebrating, man. They were setting off fireworks. Yeah, send them here.
They're going to come right here, which they will. I mean, that's where people are going to go is right to Wynwood.
We don't care. Yeah. Just bring the money, kids. That's it. And spring breakers have a different approach now also. They have cash.
Okay.
They're sitting in restaurants. It's not. I remember coming down here with like we would come 8 guys, share a room.
Yep.
If you had $100 on you for like 8 days in South Florida, that was like wow, you're really packing it in there, huh? You brought 100 with you?
I did that.
Are you kidding me?
We went to the Keys, and we went to the Keys. There was a ton of us in one room. We went to Jamaica, and there was a bunch of us sharing rooms. Then when I went to Panama City, it was like I just caught a ride with a buddy and was with his friends, and there was like 15 of us in a room. We did that in New Orleans too. That was literally, you're not wrong. Like you didn't give a shit if you had anywhere to sleep. You just needed somewhere to put your stuff, and then you just went.
That's it. Yeah. I don't know if you were sleeping on top of somebody. In fact, it was even desirable as long as it was a female.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
and then what was weird was you would have 8 guys in a small room.
Yep.
And then you would invite people to come stay in the room that you met.
Come back.
So if everybody did that, all of a sudden there's like 32 people in there. It's crazy. Oh, you invited the entire, Mormon Tabernacle Choir? They haven't been to Florida, huh? Okay. A lot of those kids need to really let it loose, huh?
And everyone
That'd be
did
great.
that.
They're all staying in one room. Yeah. The manager would watch everybody come in. You'd be climbing in through different on the fire escape, whatever you could do to get in there.
Subtle. Like everyone would just come through the same kind of person for hours.
Now these kids have money, though. I think because the restaurants are packed, and you'll see like 8 young girls that obviously are spring breakers, and they're all sitting at a table and ordering appletinis. Man, I mean, it's unbelievable. And paying like 16 a pop. And, they don't run out on a check. I mean, that's what you're waiting for, right? You're saying you see table 4 over there? I guarantee you, when the check comes, they're nowhere near the restaurant, right? But so that's going on, and we're all having a good time with that. But the people at Wynwood, which is a new area of development of like hipness and restaurants and all this stuff, and in a million years you would have never pictured this being like a hot place to go.
That's dumb.
Sure, I mean it was as decrepit as any area of South Florida could possibly be. And they were in just mass celebration yesterday. As soon as the gavel came down on that city commission meeting, where they said, "That's it, midnight, everybody off the streets," these guys went into celebration mode and immediately flooded all of the South Beach hotels. I mean, I think they even did like a leaflet drop, like the Brothers to the Rescue used to do there, to help the Cuban, immigrants that had come over here. A leaflet drop from a plane, on South Beach, saying, "Don't worry about a thing, kids. You come here. We want your money." Reminds me of the days I was selling yearbooks in the upper deck at Shea there when they let the Borden's kids in, and the entire rest of the stadium was empty, Lubie, and the upper deck, which was sort of massive there at Shea, was completely full. I mean, all the way in the deepest of nosebleed seats, there was a little kid snibbling and dribbling over a tuna sandwich that he brought in a bag, and with $1, he was going to buy the first thing that came up there. And so we hit him right away as soon as they opened the gates with our yearbook sales. And by the time the guys came around with hot dogs and peanuts and soda, these kids were cleaned out. They all had a picture of Tom and Nancy Seaver, as Minervini used to say when he does his Bob Murphy impression, that was suitable for framing. All right, Hialeah Park, that is suitable for any occasion. You know what? Just jonesing to get down there again at Hialeah Park and experience the beauty and the just inherent brilliance of the way they put together the Champion simulcasting room. And that is just a great, great time. And the way they did it is absolutely phenomenal. Now, get ready, too, for the classics coming up. The Triple Crown is right around the corner. We're talking about first Saturday in May is only, a few weeks away, Lubie. Unbelievable. And then you've got the Preakness and the Belmont Stakes. So great place to take all of that in. Of course, any day is just a good day to be at Hialeah Park. Great food and drink. And you're not getting whacked. They're not going to charge you $8 for a bottle of Budweiser there. Are you kidding me? You not only will enjoy the food, but you'll enjoy the atmosphere that they put together there because everybody's having a good time. A lot of jackpots being won in the casino. Steve Calabro making sure of that. And the poker room is extremely well run. Now, that is a great way. And I saw a lot of people playing poker in Atlantic City. I had to roll by the poker room a couple of times there at Harrah's. And, they had the games on and everything. And that's what they do at Hialeah Park. They make it so that you can have just a grand old time watching all of the basketball Thursday and Friday, Saturday and Sunday, playing poker, playing the slots, playing all of the casino games that are available there, betting the horses, whatever you want to do, eating and drinking, taking in just that good vibe, maybe just breathing in, ingesting that wonderful atmosphere at Hialeah Park where you feel like you stepped off the face of the earth and into some kind of utopian style nirvana. And it's just a great, great time. So make your plans. Check out the calendar of events at HialeahPark.com. Make your plans to get down there. You're always going to enjoy it. I always do. I believe in my heart of hearts that you will too. If you haven't been to Hialeah Park recently, make your plans to get down there. And if you are a regular customer with a player's card and all of that, the great treatment that you've become accustomed to at beautiful Hialeah Park. All right, John Congemi going to join us. That'll be Dateline Dolphins. So a lot to talk about in the National Football League. That's in the 8 o'clock hour of the program. So we'll do that from 8 to 9. John Congemi, brought to you by Jimmy Johnson's Big Chill, mile marker 104 in Key Largo. I'm Jeff Deforrest. He is one Mike Lubitz. And we're here on Ion Channel. You can Google the Defo Show. I thought yesterday's show was great. I actually, sometimes you do this, and I don't know that you ever get jaded because we're lucky to be able to do something that, as we said, you would die for, a chance to do this sort of thing. And I was on my walk of life yesterday, and I really did have an extra bounce in my step, as sore of a pig as I was. I was in worse shape than that 4 ball that won at 55-1 for me at Laurel on Sunday. And really about ready to snap off a leg. And I was thinking, wow, how great was it talking college basketball back-to-back with Leslie Visser and then Jim Larinaga, who's on a roll, favored by 2 and a hook over Iowa State, another team that seemed to have little chance of being in this position. And I don't know. I mean, is that where it turns around? Because all of a sudden, you go from being a giant underdog to being a favorite.
Yeah.
I think Larinaga, though, with a weak to prepare for Iowa State should be okay. Iowa State, they're not facing a team that's blessed with, or a position with a lot of height as the first two teams they played, but sort of similar in that they're scrappy and get a lot of their points off turnovers, as does the University of Miami. And it's Miami's three guards, I guess, versus the three guards from Iowa State in this ball game. So we'll see how that shakes out on Friday. That's going to be a lot of fun. I tend to take in some simulcasting. That'll be my next session at a racetrack. And then what? Is it 3:10 in the afternoon they start that thing?
No, the Gaines game is the last game of the.
Oh, it's the last game.
Round. Okay. It's 9:45 at night Friday. I'm like, where's he going to be?
Even better.
I'm guessing open still that late at night. Good for you.
No, I'm gonna watch that one because and could that be the jinx though? That now that I'm on board with the Hurricanes,
that's what I'm
saying. I did not anticipate them beating Auburn. Did you? I mean, let's face it, nobody did. They were 7.5-point dogs. They hadn't been that great during the regular season. They had that one nice run where they won 9 in a row, including beating Duke.
Yes.
At a time where Duke was very well respected. Duke's highly vulnerable now, are they not? I mean, I don't anticipate Duke winning the thing. Do you?
I still feel like it's Gonzaga, but Duke has enough talent to figure it out. So far, they've sort of struggled a little. This last month, they haven't played their best ball.
Everybody's putting a ring around Arizona already.
I don't know.
Arizona. Everybody loves Arizona. I don't know who's going to win it. I don't believe Gonzaga will, so you may as well go ahead and unload on that. Because I explained to you how little I know about college basketball in the tournament. And I can't imagine that anybody, even at this stage, is in position to have completed a perfect bracket. Can you?
Oh, I don't know. Once St. Peter's pulled that off, it's like, come on. There's always some asshole that's like, yeah, of course. I had it.
Taking a shot with them. Yeah, I mean, maybe somebody actually had some insight into it and felt like they were in there with a legitimate fighter's puncher's chance. No,
St. Peter's.
St. Peter's in that first game. No way.
No, I'm sorry.
Baylor being eliminated, that didn't help anybody. I'm sure. Although I don't know that they were a championship team. You've had any number of what would appear to be monumental upsets, including the fact that you have who has a 10 versus 11 seed in the third round.
Yeah, that's the other thing.
The Midwest Regional.
Who had Iowa State and Miami pulling off both?
Yeah. That seems like if you're sitting there with Iowa State, Miami on your bracket as the third round game in the Midwest, you really, I mean, that's some serious stuff there. And then you have a shot, and then you would also have had to come up with St. Peter's winning 2 games so far, also.
I mean, come on.
And any number of other upsets, including Tennessee getting knocked off. A lot of the SEC being virtually out of the tournament, looking like a bunch of fools.
Yep.
ACC, prominent with 3 teams left in the Sweet 16. 3 of the 16 teams are ACC teams. Everybody thought that the league was just a bunch of crap.
Yeah.
So if you have a perfect bracket, I can't imagine anybody is perfect to even this point, much less throughout the entire course of the tournament. Now, it does happen that after you get these first-round upsets and maybe even a couple in the second round, that things revert back to form when you get to the third round of the tournament and the heavyweights start to prevail. Yes. Because, as much parity as there is in college basketball, there still is very little room at the top, or so it seems.
Disparity, exactly.
Yeah. Very little room at the top. All right, we're coming back with more. We're going to be with you till 9 o'clock today. And John Kajemi is going to join us from 8 to 9. That should be a lot of fun. We'll get into all the stuff in the National Football League. I'm Jeff Deforrest. He is Mike Lubitz. It's Ion Channel. Google the Defo Show. You can find it. Audio and visual streaming. And just a heck of a lot of fun being with you here on this fine Wednesday. And we'll be back with more in a moment. Now that.
The time.
It's 7:43.
Tony Segreto here. Let me ask you a question. What do you look for when you go out to eat? Good food, obviously, friendly atmosphere, not too loud, but good energy, reasonable prices, and a place where you feel comfortable. You're talking about the Texas Roadhouse. Good for a family, good for a date, or just a night out for yourself, and prices that will make you extremely happy. Their ribs unmatched. Steaks hand-cut every day. Everything, and I mean everything, is made on site, including their incredible bread. Trust me when I tell you, Texas Roadhouse, your restaurant, your destination when you say, where should we go and eat tonight?
From the newly renovated sports bar to the beautiful bayside views captured at the Tiki Bar, Jimmy Johnson's Big Chill has it all. Located at mile marker 104, the Big Chill also offers waterfront dining while experiencing breathtaking sunset views of the Florida Keys. It's simply the hottest spot in the Keys to cool off. That's Jimmy Johnson's Big Chill at mile marker 104 in Key Largo. For more information, call today at 305-453-9066.
Any time of year, things can happen to your home or business, and the insurance company can be your friend, but they also can be your enemy. Horizon Public Adjusters, Justina Testa, are here for you to help this process go so much easier. 7 to 10 times more money recovered with a public adjuster than if you went on your own. If there's no recovery, there's no fee. Before you call your insurance company, call Horizon Public Adjusters and Justina Testa at 954-809-8752.
I never expected in that fight in against Mark Antonio Barrera, but Lidwabo, we have an opponent. I don't know what his name, but his opponent is he have I think injured on his hand, so they changed the opponent.
Start your day with a cup of Defo. Welcome back to the Defo Show.
If you needed an interpreter, if you're not familiar with that clip, we'll give you the background on it, because I know we have a lot of new people tuning into the show now that we're on different platforms here. And that was from many years ago. Wow, I was working in the early stages at 790 a.m. In Miami, and they had just kind of become an independent sports station owned by, and they were the launching pad for Stu Gatz, of course, was one of the, he actually was one of the guys that was going to be he was the general manager, I think, of that station, and he had talked some guy into putting up $10 million. Guy named Feinberg, into putting up $10 million. He was the son of a very rich, wealthy man who owned a bunch of property here in South Florida. $10 million to lease a radio station's time, all 24 hours a day. Concept that I think he might have ripped off another friend of ours, Carl LaFosse Foster, had come up with this plan, and they were going to do it. And then he invited Wiener in, and Wiener's, it's very much a Facebook story. Wiener kind of stole the idea and got it done, though. I mean, because it's hard to find a guy with the cash that's going to say, well, you know what, all 10 million may be at risk. Okay, I'll do it.
Yeah, exactly.
That guy lost his ass, but, well, Wiener, John Wiener is Stu Gatz's real name. He teamed up with Dan Lebitard, who I didn't think was really going to be all that as a radio commodity, in all honesty, because I had heard him doing a weekend show on ESPN, and I thought, wow, that is one of the worst radio shows I've ever heard in my life.
Well, he admitted to his early struggles that he tried to do sports talk, and it wasn't his thing, and he never understood it because he was a fan of yours and Neil's growing up. So he never really. I haven't heard it, but I've heard people talk about how he admitted his early days were struggles, and he had to totally just switch the gear because that wasn't going to work.
No, I mean, anybody could do that. I mean, that is the truth. I mean, if you just took, generic topical material and spoke about it, what do you remember of anything that's said on ESPN? I mean, okay, Stephen A. Smith attracts attention because what? Because he's putting on a show. That's all.
Yes.
I don't know. Do you remember anything that he said? No, you only remember the things that he said that were dead wrong.
Yeah, exactly.
That are pointed out. I mean, but of all the other announcers that are on ESPN, nothing against them. They're all very fine professionals, I'm sure, and they seem to be talented and competent. They hold up well under the pressure of being on TV in front of millions of people. A lot of guys might have some kind of meltdown, lose it. So they're all very competent and professional. But do you remember any single thing that any of them, and it's the same thing with these color analysts, that are getting, I don't remember a single thing that Kirk Herbstreit ever said that you go back, and we always talk about, well, I do anyway, because it was from my era, but the greatest, among the greatest ever analysts, any sport, Al DeRogatis, would, actually say something. You go, man, God, how the hell did that guy figure that out? It's incredible. Yep. Now, you had a little bit of that with Tony Romo in the beginning, which was good, and people really gravitated towards it. And then CBS, in mind-boggling fashion, went ahead and gave this guy, $18 million a game or whatever it was.
I don't think it's a game. They jumped the shark. Like, he had a little bit of success early. They got so happy they threw money at him, and I think it sort of messed him up because he's actually gotten worse. Like, he's leaned into it so much where it's like, dude, you can let Nance talk here and there. Like, Nance literally just says, all right.
He's resigned to the idea that, Romo's going to carry him right to the top, because whatever Romo's getting, he's going to get close to that.
Yep.
No matter what. And it's more money than he ever would have seen, in a lifetime, much less in one season of calling NFL games. Now, are there only? This is the other thing. Are there only like a handful of people in the world that are capable of doing this? I mean, you're going to see certain people that command a ton of capital for their profession because they just happen to be so unique that nobody else can do it. Now, I would not say that that's the case with any color analyst that's doing NFL football or any sport for that matter, because rarely, I mean, there are some guys like a Vital, you just you gravitate towards the personality, especially in the beginning. And now, too, I mean, you would love to see Dick Vitale come back and call a game after beating the Big C.
Yeah.
That'd be great. And, you realize how unique this guy was. But, if you're not necessarily going to say anything memorable at all, ever, at least you do like a guy that infuses a dose of enthusiasm into a broadcast where you're saying, okay, I wasn't that big of a college basketball fan, but this guy made me think this is really a great game.
Yeah.
I mean, Vital had that quality. There are other guys that do that, and there are many different approaches. I still I enjoy a little Hubie with all of his statistical material because at least he's not painting a false picture just to make everything seem like it was great.
Yeah, that's the thing.
Yeah.
Hubie will be very complimentary because he was a coach, but he doesn't scream the praise of everyone all the time. Like, I was with Gruden. Like, people love Gruden, but everyone was the best player ever and the best thing ever. And it was like, okay, Gruden. That's not true.
Yeah, every play call is not a stroke of pure Einstein-type genius. Just because, two guys miss a tackle and a simple run up the middle happen to result in a 35-yard gain. I don't know that you need to zero in then on the offensive coordinator and go, my God, is this guy brilliant? And the screaming color commentator, where the guy's just out of control from the very beginning. I mean, that was part of the problem when they had maybe one of the worst combinations ever in terms of television analysts. And it wasn't that long ago. ESPN was there. And are they just paying for the embarrassment of Jason Witten and Booger McFarland in the Booger Mobile?
Yep.
The embarrassment that brought upon the game of football was immense, was it not? Jason Witten, I mean, he literally made Brian Greasy look like it was Chris Rock that was doing the games.
I was going to say he was so boring.
Where you're saying you can't be any more boring than this guy was. And, he ended up going back to the Dallas Cowboys as a tight end. And, you would have thought, thank goodness that this guy has other job options. They paid him a lot of money to be an analyst, I'm sure. And Sean McVay probably would have been great. I don't know that anybody, I guess it's worth whatever they're willing to pay you. But, $20 million for a guy to do 20 football games during the course of a year does seem a little excessive, does it not? Makes you wish that we had gone in that direction as a color analyst. Kirk Herbstreit just got like, $10 million plus a year from Amazon.
Okay. I actually like Herbstreit. He's not Witten. Like, you can tell he's better than Witten.
No, he's good. Okay. Yeah, I
just,
don't have no problem with him.
But you're not wrong. I'm trying to remember. I'm like, I actually like Herbstreit, but shit, what has he ever said? Like, I can't remember anything he's done that's so phenomenal. Yeah, like he's just standard. He doesn't get in the way. Like, I like that he doesn't get in the way. He's good at staying out of the way.
He's not Jay Billis. He seems to, do his research, but he's not condescending like Jay Billis is.
Not an
he's talking to the listeners. But I don't know what makes this such a special talent. Do you?
No. I've done color.
It's worth that kind of aggravation and financial investment, to snare a guy like, Al Michaels is obviously extremely professional at what he does. He's not my favorite announcer, but I could not possibly knock the guy's professionalism. Yeah, but, I mean, is he the only guy that could do that at 77? That's incredible. It's not like you're getting Vin Scully, is it?
I mean, I guess. Al Michaels is considered by many to be one of those you could call the best ever. I mean, he's done every sport pretty much.
Yeah.
And he's been there at the biggest moments, whether he pre-wrote it or not. Like, Al Michaels is in that class now in his late 70s. I don't know. Look, I'm not going to lie. It doesn't feel like he's fallen off. Like, it doesn't.
No, he does the same call. I mean, pretty much that he has for the last 15, 20 years. I mean, he's fine. Yeah.
Like, if he still wants to do it, good for him. The color ones, I don't know, because look, I've never wanted to do color. I don't have any interest, and I've done it, and it wasn't easy, but it wasn't hard either. Like, if you're paired with someone who knows what they're doing as a play-by-play person doing color, there's not a lot of room for you to talk. So how hard could it be? I never understood why they get that much money. It's like when you find a really good one, like I like Charles Davis, but again, I like the guys that do more with less. Guys that jump and say their thing, get the hell out. Jump and say their thing, get the hell out.
Yeah, I like guys that bring some personality to it and also can bring out the personality of the players and give you some insight into who they are as people and characters or whatever, and their approach to the game and all of that stuff. I don't think you get much of that. I really don't. There are very few guys that do that sort of thing. And, whatever the sport is, you rarely get somebody that makes you think, wow, I didn't know that about so-and-so. Did you? Where you feel like you're getting color analysis. Some guy is actually color implies that you're illuminating the situation. I just don't see why these networks are falling all over each other to give the same few guys this kind of money, because you would think, if anything, that there has to. Is there anybody out there? They always say this. Developing new talent, right? Like where are the new head coaches? Maybe Mike McDaniel will be one of these guys. It's possible that here was San Francisco, and they were sitting on a guy that was so magnificent that if it wasn't for the fact that they like Shanahan and the job that he's done there, that they would have been more than happy if he evolved his way up to being the head coach someday of the San Francisco 49ers. That would be interesting. But when it comes to announcers, you would think these networks would have guys that they're polishing up, right? Here, go into a room there and do play-by-play with so-and-so.
Yeah,
when you get it down, we're going to break out on a women's college basketball game, which this is with apologies to our friend Jim Sarney. I know he was trying to push you. And, we were talking yesterday about the fact that I was interviewing Jim Larinaga, but I hadn't really seen the games.
That's my favorite.
I didn't really need to see the games because I knew that Larinaga could illustrate what was going on. Now, there were a couple of things that he referenced that I didn't see, and we gave the usual, yeah, type of response. But, it was appropriate there to sort of fake our way through the interview.
I watched enough, and you knew enough about it that I knew you'd be fine in the interview. I
had read about it. I witnessed some of it. I didn't realize that, I forgot. I guess I was out to dinner when they were playing Auburn. And I had schlepped to another part of town there to go to Doc's Oyster House in Atlantic City. Great place, by the way. If you guys are ever in Atlantic City, I would recommend stopping at Doc's Oyster House. All right? Very, very, well-run restaurant also. It seems like really high-end, and yet it's reasonably priced. Two people next to me, I don't know how you feel about this. This is a food thing. Probably should get into this with the Gambling Gourmet, Mike Mayo, but I don't know what his opinion would be. You could order anything from like a 2 to 5 pound lobster, all right, Maine lobster. And the two people next to us, they were, like a couple, maybe in their late 20s, early 30s. I would say, late 20s, maybe 27, 28 years old. And they each had a 4 pound Maine lobster, which was gigantic. A 4 pound, each of them, right? Now, if you were getting a 4 or 5 pound lobster, wouldn't you be sharing that? Not you necessarily, but most normal people.
Pound lobster, like Shirley loves lobster. I usually let her have the majority.
Let's say you loved it though. I mean, you've seen the size of these things.
Yeah, that's a lot. It's 4 pound.
4 pound lobster is massive. I mean, the claw literally looked like something out of Jurassic Park. It really did. You were waiting for Jeff Goldblum to show up as the waiter there. Dropped this thing on the table, and then it turned out to still be alive, right? Eats the two people. That was huge. I mean, would you really do that? Order a 4 pound lobster and eat it by yourself?
No, it was. Yeah, why would two people need? Like, I would get that, and maybe we'd get something else, and then we'd share it.
Yeah.
Like, that's a lot. How much do you love lobster? You'd be sick. I'd be sick. That's a lot.
But I would go there and I would order, like maybe a smaller one, but maybe something like 2.5, 3 pounds, something in that category. Yeah. Which they were charging $28 a pound for.
I was gonna say, how much was that 4 pound?
So it was $1.12. It was a $2 ticket on that 55 to 1 shot. Which I have the name of the horse. A lot of people have been asking me, do you even know the name of the horse? It really was insignificant, the name of the horse. But Aliferous, I did a little research on this on my own story, Lubie. Nice. Aliferous was the name of the horse, an Oklahoma bred, which, let's face it, not exactly like Blue Blood there. Oklahoma bred. You see a horse listed in the racing form or the program as an Oklahoma bred, it's an immediate throwout. Unless this horse is Mickey Mantle, you don't want it bred in Oklahoma. Because, it's just not Kentucky. It's not Florida. It's not New York. It's not California. Yeah. I mean, these would be hot breeding areas. Every now and then you'll see a horse, Indiana bred or whatever, West Virginia bred, and they'll win a race. But Oklahoma, almost always an immediate throwout for me, right? In fact, it would be one of those things that all the wise guys at the track are sitting there mocking, going, look at that, an Oklahoma bred. What's he doing here? And actually, the race was not a cheap pig race. It was what's called a maiden special weight race, which a maiden race is for horses that have not won a race yet in their lifetime. And, I mean, a lot of, obviously, you have to be out there. Some horses win at first asking, as they say. But, that's sort of rare. So, it's not uncommon to see horses that people paid like millions of dollars for in maiden special weight races that have already raced 2 or 3 times. And, haven't quite found their stride yet or, mastered what it is that the trainer is trying to get them to do. And so, this was not an insignificant race, and it was a maiden special weight race with like a $50,000 purse, Libby. So, not a low-level cheap race. This horse had been gone for 2 years.
That's
Had run 3 crummy races. He had been 5th, 3rd, and 9th in his 3 previous starts, which were in 2020. Incredible. And the trainer, I thought had run a bunch of races with 0 wins, but that was, according to this other statistic I saw, that was the first horse he had started in 2022.
Oh, Jesus.
Those trainers would have, even if they had a small barn, they'd have like, 40, 50 starts by now. That was his first entry of 2022. I mean, there's just so much mystery. Now, I read a little story on this. It didn't seem like the guy was a criminal, and I don't think they're in Peru right now. Because my first instinct was, how long will these guys be in Maryland before they hit Mexico? With the horse in a van, all bandaged up, maybe even a cover over it so nobody could see that this was the horse, Aliferous. And, the jockey never to ride again, suspended for life by the stewards for what had to be a Fugazi ride. The jockey was C.E. Lopez. And he is, I guess, a fixture on the Maryland circuit, C.E. Lopez. I don't know if he's any relation to the great C.C. Lopez, who I think has, spawned 9 generations of jockeys. C.C. Lopez. Used to always leave the gate first there at Aqueduct in Belmont when I was going to New York. C.C. Lopez. Could count on him going right to the top and then doing the Arazi shuffle right to the back. Anyway, that was yesterday's news. It turned out that this horse was even more unbettable than I thought to begin with. Just no chance. An Oklahoma bred, Lubie. Are you kidding me? That would be like us, 2 Jewish kids trying to take on some young Kenyans in a marathon challenge. Right?
Sure.
Kip Keno all of a sudden is, running next to us. And he goes, you guys in for the whole distance, or you're just going to run a couple of miles and drop out? Remember when they had a rabbit in the mile race? Do you remember the rabbit? They used to put a rabbit in the field.
Yes.
I always wondered why the rabbit, I guess, he couldn't go the distance and sustain that speed for a distance, but they always put the rabbit in there. And you're thinking, well, if everybody knows he's just a rabbit, then why are they paying any attention to him at all? The rabbit was a term for a guy, and this was especially true, I believe, in indoor mile races, where they had a guy that was going to set the pace. And all of the top runners, and I happened to be very fortunate. I was covering a lot of track and field when they really had great guys. I mean, the field was just laced with star power talent. Remember John Walker out of New Zealand?
That I don't know.
And of course, Eamon Coughlin, the chairman of the boards, the Irish kid. He was great. And you had any number of brilliant milers. There was a guy named Steve Scott that I covered from Upland, California, and he was known as America's premier miler. He ran in Miami one time. They had some kind of mile race here. Do you remember that, Lubie?
I did not remember that. Sounds entertaining.
My man Steve Scott might have won that thing. But, wow, it was great. But even with all these brilliant runners that knew exactly what they had to do to win races, they still installed in the field a guy that was known as the Rabbit. And he would go out there, and he'd be out in front by 20 yards. And everybody else was just kind of pacing themselves in there behind him. But you were thinking that this rabbit has no connection to the field. And then after, let's say they were going 8 laps around the track on an indoor mile track, after 4 laps, this guy would just run into the infield, even though he was leading the race by a half a mile, like it was Rosie Ruiz or something. Took the subway up to 8th Street there and then just joined the race right before the finish line. And guess what? There she is. There's your winner, Rosie Ruiz. How did the officials at the finish line not detect there or smell a rat there when Rosie Ruiz came in without a single bead of sweat on her?
Sweating it all.
Hair was just done. right? She's wearing full makeup, posing for the pictures there, gets the little sash and, puts on the, what is that, aluminum foil they put on the people? No, those capes that they put on marathon.
I know what you're talking about. I didn't know it was made of aluminum foil. Like, that would be a weird thing to put on.
Doesn't it look like they're ready to bake a potato? Oh, geez, I didn't even realize it, man. We're schlubbering on here about nothing.
I'm trying to tell you.
I still thought we had like 10 minutes before the top of the hour.
I'm aware.
John Kajemi, man. I don't want to take
He's
any
ready.
more of John's time because we need John to bail us out of this show. As brilliant as yesterday was, that was largely helped. I mean, that was with 2 giant assists there from Leslie Visser. Actually, they carried the load, and Jim Larinaga. John Kajemi is going to do the same for us today as he joins us for Dateline Dolphins and look around all the things that are happening in the National Football League. I'm Jeff Deforrest. He is Mike Lubie. Lubitz, Jimmy Johnson's Big Chill, proud sponsor of Dateline Dolphins, very appropriately so, with John Kajemi. His brother Dominic is the main guy down there in the kitchen, man. Make sure everything is coming out. Larry Calvano does a tremendous job as the owner. Jimmy, of course, on the scene there. Amanda, Dominic's wife. Wow, is she great at running? She should be the general manager of the Dolphins, no?
Yeah, that would be wonderful.
Mess around. Okay, I need you over there, you over there, you over there. Let's go. What's happening on table 13? Let's get that done. I need an Italian fisherman on 32. She's great. All right, coming back with more in a moment with John Kajemi. Now that.
The time.
It's 8:06. If poker is your game, you're covered in style. And you can play all your favorite Vegas-style games, including blackjack, craps, and roulette, in Hialeah Park's sizzling hot casino. Get a player's card when you walk through the door for all kinds of generous amenities, including our favorite, free play, when you come out to the ultimate casino and entertainment destination, Hialeah Park.
These days, we're all looking for comfort anywhere we can find it. Thank goodness for Landlubbers Raw Bar and Grill in the Plantation location, because they are making sure you are as comfortable as possible. You're going to have the best wings in the world. You're going to have a great burger. You're going to have their amazing soups. Again, Landlubbers Raw Bar and Grill. It's nice and easy. Just go to landlubbersbarandgrill.com for both your pickup and free delivery. Thank goodness for Landlubbers for making you always feel right at home.
Catholic Health Services is committed to care that changes as your needs do. Our full continuum of services is designed to be there throughout your care journey. If you need assistance with daily living, post-acute care following a serious health event, or additional medical care at home, we also offer skilled nursing and palliative and hospice care. Your care needs may change, but our commitment never does. Catholic Health Services, South Florida's #1 choice for post-acute and end-of-life care. Visit CatholicHealthServices.org.
Jimmy Johnson joins us here on the program, along with John Kajemi, and it's Dateline Dolphins, of course.
Hey, Coach, you were talking about, different ways to motivate guys, different ways to talk to guys, talking about Brian Flora. And I think just listening to him talk to his team, I think it resonates with a lot of guys. I think that's an important ingredient if you're sitting in the room and you actually believe what the guy, that man is telling you, that's your head coach. How did you feel about that, your message resonating with your team?
John,
at any level.
I think you're exactly right. I've never been a dreamer. I've never dreamed about stuff, because if you dream, that means you got your fingers crossed and you're hoping.
Yeah.
But I believe, when we were at University of Miami, the graduation rate was right about 50%, which that's about what the student body is. And so, I looked at it, and we were recruiting these inner city kids. And from day one, I talked to them about when they got their college degree. If you really believe in something, John, it's part of your personality. My personality was, hey, these guys are college graduates. We were 1 in 15 in Dallas, and I took my guys out, Tony and Dave and Butch and all that crew. We went to a little restaurant, and I said, guys, just hang with me. I told you we're going to win a national championship when I was at Oklahoma State. Now, we had to go to another university to do it, but we won it. I said, hang with me. We're going to win a Super Bowl. We operated as if we were going to win a Super Bowl. It wasn't hoping, it wasn't dreaming, it was believing. And I think that if that's your personality, it carries over to the players.
Right.
It carries over to the assistant coaches. That's the way they deal with the players. And, hey, after a couple of years, all of a sudden these players are believing they're going to win it. I think that motivates every player to be a good player.
The best way to kick off your day is with Defo plus Lubie. We now return to the Defo Show.
Welcome back to the show. Morning once again, everybody, on this fine Wednesday. Jeff Deforrest, Mike Lubie, Lubitz, the Defo show here on on Channel, and always a pleasure. Every news your faith in mankind to not only see this gentleman looking as good as he does, but to have him as part of our program. And we welcome to the show for a little Dateline Dolphins. The great John Congemi, longtime TV analyst with ESPN. Maybe you got out a little too soon, John. I don't know.
They
You're thinking
kicked
about
me out.
launching a comeback?
I wish I could have stayed. They kicked me out.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
that was unfortunate. And, that's when they were dealing with all of the, I can say this, you're very humble about it, but the diversity issues were not necessarily lining up in your favor. It was you and Rachel Nichols that were being ostracized unfairly by the people at ESPN. Sorry, John. Now I got to turn my back on you. But, wow, I mean, I know we talked about this before, but the cycle has sort of been completed now with Al Michaels signing this deal to go with Kirk Herbstreit at Amazon. You got Joe Buck moving to Monday Night Football with Troy Aikman on ESPN, which just a few years ago had a guy rolling around on the sidelines in something called a Boogermobile. So, I mean, they have gone to a lot of extent to, try and get away from that whole image. And, you've had other guys making big scores as they were on the move, Collinsworth, et cetera. But it strikes me that, and you did this for a long time for a living, and, your analysis was always spot on. And yet, I don't know, are these guys really illuminating the game to a level where you don't think anybody else is even in this category, where they're worth this kind of dough? I know, I'll take it if somebody offered me $10 million tomorrow to do the same thing, but it does seem absurd, doesn't it, that this is where the networks are investing their money instead of maybe, spreading it around a little bit and having a better supporting staff.
Well, all I'll say is that those guys are very talented at what they do, but there are a lot of people that are on that level.
Yeah.
And it all depends on, what flavor you like. You bring it back to your favorite food. Well, that's my favorite restaurant. I want to go there, but I went to this other place. It's pretty close. I mean, I can't tell the difference. Or a nice glass of wine or a bottle of wine. If you're blindfolded and you taste one, you think it's Camus, but it really isn't. And, I think it's the same thing with broadcasters. I think that people that make those decisions fall in love with certain people for whatever reason, and it kind of suppresses other people from moving around the board and getting to that level. So the guys that are at the top do a great job, but there are also plenty of others that are just as good, if not better, given the opportunities, but those opportunities sometimes never come.
It's funny. I mean, if there's a guy that I don't really care for his announcing style doing a game, I'm not a big fan of the screamer. I'm just not. I never was. Obviously you have to raise your enthusiasm level if you're doing play-by-play or color analysis at certain points. But if you're at a fever pitch on the very first play, like a lot of guys are, oh my God, can you believe that? 3 yards on first down. That's fantastic. What genius. I'm not a fan of all of that. And there are guys that have made a living doing a lot of yelling and hollering during the course of the ball game. But in general, I don't know if it's somebody that I like that's doing a game. Okay, that's good. But I mean, people are going to watch NFL games no matter what. I mean, if they had nobody doing the ball game, you would think at least you would tune in, every Sunday, whatever game it is that you have sort of earmarked or benchmarked for your for your viewing pleasure, you're going to watch it. It doesn't matter who's in the booth.
I've always felt like when I was watching a game at home or I was broadcasting a game, and if I was sitting at home at the same time, all I want you to do is give me the information and let me decipher how I want to accept that. It's funny because you could go the full spectrum. You could have a play-by-play guy. Let's take, for instance, Gus Johnson. He's going to say, Congemi, 15 yards, Youngstown, Ohio. He did it. And that's it, right?
I mean, you happen to pick a guy that I just, had major issues listening to with the screaming.
So the other spectrum is, Congemi drops back. His mom makes cookies on Thursdays because they're good luck. And they interject everything on their board that they have to get in. And it's just like, all I want you to do is tell me what's going on and let me kind of pick and choose what I ingest, right?
Well, we're seeing, also the appreciation of what the Mannings are doing in that alternative
Right.
broadcast on Monday Night Football. Now, I wasn't a huge fan of the crew. Steve Levy, obviously, is a professional, and I thought he did a decent job of doing a play-by-play. Louis Riddick, who seems to be very intelligent when discussing football. Nonetheless, I don't think that whole thing that he does in the studio is applicable to a game, and that seemed to me what he was doing. And then I don't know. I don't know if you, you probably had some contact with Brian Greasy when you're both at
Yeah.
ESPN. And
Hmm.
while he may be a great guy, I don't know much about him other than that he's the son of Bob. But vapid, I would say, would be the word I would use to describe. He did nothing for me to illuminate anything, and seemed to be playing, distant second fiddle to Riddick, who was dominating that whole thing. But it was an absolute mess that they had going. So people naturally gravitated towards the Mannings. And one of the things I was reading about, all of these different transitions that are going on that made perfect sense to me was that you would really like to, hear from a guy that you felt like you were sitting in the living room with him
Yes. Right.
watching the game, or you were in the stands with the guy, and it was a pleasure to be sitting next to him because the things that he was saying were making you think, man, I mean, you're absolutely right. This guy can't dribble his way out of a paper bag.
I like watching. I didn't get into the Manning broadcast until probably halfway through because I actually forgot.
Yeah.
Somebody kept telling me about it, and I was like, I'll just watch the game. I'll figure it out myself. Then I tuned in, and it was actually I liked it a little bit more because they had a guest. They bounced things back and forth, and you could tell Peyton's kind of living and dying on every play because he knows what he's doing pre-snap. He's going through the mind of the quarterback. He sees the defense. He's telling you where the ball should go because the quarterbacks aren't as good and the offenses aren't as good. Sometimes it didn't happen. So Eli would make fun of him. Yeah, you're 0 for 4 tonight. You're right on par for what you should be doing. But actually, the ball should have went there. So you're kind of looking at it through the lens of a guy, one of the greatest guys to ever do it. And funny at the same time because they're getting on each other, and you don't have to fight through the BS of a football game watching that.
Yeah.
So they kind of the charm of the show, in my opinion, is they take all of the dead action in a game and converse over it while all of a sudden you're back at it, without knowing that next snap's coming when you're ready to get new information.
Well, they don't force anything. Like that's why I like the analysts, the play-by-play guys are fine. They're doing their job. But color analysts, a lot of the time, that's why I liked what you used to do. They force it. Peyton and Eli don't. Peyton and Eli, it's like they forget they're on TV and they just talk about the game where you learn something, but it's not like Mayock where it feels like he's trying to be a neurosurgeon or a rocket scientist. They don't use terms like that. Like they're the guys that know those terms and they don't feel the need to use them. They feel the need to just talk about it like they're talking to any person about a game. And you get, like, I haven't really gotten into Monday Night Football in years just because I'm tired. I got to wake up early. And I know I'm not going to get to finish the game, but to watch them for a half, I was doing it every week because I was learning stuff without knowing I was learning it. I was just enjoying it. And it was just different than a broadcast I've seen in a long time.
Yeah, it sometimes when you watch a broadcast, you feel like a baby in a high chair and you've already eaten like 3 jars of the applesauce, but grandma's going to shove another spoonful in your mouth. You're like, no more.
All over your face.
I don't want any more.
Yeah.
That sometimes, you get that feeling watching either NFL or college football.
What was the green baby
Oh,
food?
peas?
Is that
Peas,
spinach?
was it?
Is that
Spinach,
with spinach in it?
Oh, peas. They love doing peas.
Yeah, and that would be smeared all over your kid's mouth. And
Not
you're
a good
thinking,
look.
What the hell am I doing this kid? I'm torturing him. Here, have a banana instead. All right, John Kajemi with us, and it's State Line Dolphins. And the Dolphins are making moves, and I don't know. I'm starting to buy into this idea, at least to this extent, that Mike McDaniel, whenever he sat down with whoever it was that made the decision to hire him, actually said, hey, these are things that we definitively need to do if we're going to be able to run my system that was successful in San Francisco and also improve off what was a 9-8 season a year ago, 10-6 the year before. Not bad. I mean, unusual that you would even be a coach in a spot to try and fix a team that was actually above 500 the last couple of seasons, usually you're walking into a, minefield of problems. And we all know the problem has been the offensive line. So they signed this guy. What do you know about, and how do you pronounce Terron Armstead's name? Is it
That's
Terron
it.
or Terron? Okay.
Yeah.
Now, 9 years in the league. I didn't realize he'd been around so long, because when I saw the signing, I thought, wow, this is a big deal. But then you start looking at the other side of it, and the negatives are he's been in the league 9 years already, taken a bit of a beating, and never played a complete season as a starting left tackle. And Tua is left-handed, so the left tackle is not necessarily as important as it would be if he was a right tackle in this spot. But what do you make of the whole thing? I mean, what's your thought? I did think that McDaniel at least laid out some kind of prescription for change, and so far so good. They're honoring his commitment to whatever plan he had.
Well, I think when you look at Armstead, he was the number one rated free agent, across the board. All the guys around the league that are making up these lists, he was at the top of the list. And you're getting a starting veteran offensive left tackle for under $20 million a year. That's probably the going. That's the cutoff line. Whether you're under or over. And you're getting him 5 years. He's going to be a 10-year vet. You mentioned 9 years in the league.
Does he last 5 years? Was my first.
Well,
thought.
probably not. You're crossing your fingers if he does get there, because you look at the Rams and what they did with their offensive line. You had a tackle just retire after a Super Bowl victory. Yeah. He was into his 40s. So you're hoping that you don't fight the injury bug, at least for the first couple of seasons, at least next year, with Armstead, and you go through it. But the Dolphins, as to you guys' point, that they address needs in free agency, they really did. They just didn't sign the biggest name to play defensive tackle in, Sue a few years ago, when you really maybe didn't need a defensive tackle. They needed an offensive tackle. They needed to bolster this offensive line. So you go out and you get Armstead. You go out and you feel like, okay, we need another, offensive lineman. You get Connor Williams from the Dallas Cowboys. So now you pencil those guys in on the left side, and it's kind of a battle of survival of the fittest on the other side, because you could probably kick Jesse Davis and challenge him in as a center, because he's played every position along the offensive line. Is he better at center than he is at right guard or right tackle? Maybe. I don't know. Give him a shot to battle against Michael Dieter. Me personally, Dieter's more of a natural guy on the inside, so he pencils in there nicely. You got Robert Hunt, who seems to be a young guy that they really, of all the young guys that they've had on this roster and drafted, he seems to be the star of the class. So you have him at right guard, and then you're crossing your fingers that Eichenberg can come back after playing musical chairs with him in his rookie year, put him at one spot on the right side of the offensive line, and let him play there. Let him play there for, from the first day of OTAs all the way through preseason, and see if you've got a young right tackle that you can play and win games with for the foreseeable future.
Well, and what's interesting is, it's funny, we talked about this I think last week, is that they haven't gone out and gotten the big splash, right? Well, even this the big splash, you just said it. He's not even top 10 paid tackles, like offensive linemen in the league, for what they just spent on him. So as much as it seems like this big deal, it actually wasn't. It still was smart, and it was not only for a position of need, but it was, he's not going to be protecting to his blind side, but he's great in run protection. And again, everything we've noticed by everything they've done is beefing up the run game, not just because they want to play 1970s football, but because they want to protect Tua. The more they run, the better the run pass option is, which he's probably top 5 in the league at RPO. So it's Mike McDaniel coming in, and I'm sorry, all these moves scream Mike McDaniel to me, and surrounding a young quarterback with tools to succeed, which the last regime didn't do. So, and regimes haven't done it. You just said it. Ndamukong Suh was a great name, but it supposedly didn't really fit the system they were running. So
that was like, an owner's pick. That was not a GM or head coach pick.
And none of these moves have been that. And all these moves seem like Mike McDaniel's like, this is what, like Defo said at the beginning of the show, this is what we need to succeed. And then they've gone and done it, which we haven't seen in a long time for this franchise.
Well, you know what? And what ties it all together is, you get Ingold at fullback. The Dolphins haven't had a fullback on their roster in, a couple of years. They tried Chandler Cox from Auburn a couple of years ago. They drafted him. Really wasn't the offense to do it in. So he kind of finds his way on the outside looking in. And now you have an offense where you've got probably, again, 48 tight ends on the roster. That's great. It'll figure its way out, right? You're going to have multiple offensive, formations and motions and things like that. And then you're going to try to hit them with speed because you got Jalen Waddle and you got Cedric Wilson on the inside. Those guys are burners. Now you're crossing your fingers because the Dolphins, although they went out and tried to fix this offensive line in free agency, and remember, we still have the draft well ahead of us. So that might remedy what I'm going to say, but you're going to cross your fingers with re-signing Preston Williams and, going to the bank with Devontae Parker that these guys are going to be healthy. These guys are going to last on the outside. This draft has a multitude of wide receivers. It has a bunch of edge rushers and it has a good offensive line core. So the Dolphins may not be done in what they're doing, but they may want to go out and find a wide receiver, a true alpha guy, tall, lanky, can go up, a number one guy that they can hang their hat on that would complement what they did in free agency. If I'm the general manager, if I'm the head coach, that's where my attention is, because those guys plug and play a lot faster. It seems for the Dolphins, maybe not for other organizations, but they plug and play faster than offensive linemen had in this organization over the last 10 years.
I don't know if you ever felt this way during your professional playing career, John Congemi, and we're with John Congemi on Dateline Dolphins. And, of course, John was a starting quarterback at Pitt and followed in the footsteps of the great Dan Marino, and a big high school star here at St. Thomas Aquinas, one of the most powerful and a powerhouse force in high school football all around the country for years and years. End up in the Canadian Football League. But did you ever feel like just a piece of meat, a commodity? And I'm thinking about this in the context, my vision of Baker Mayfield is him lying and writhing in agony on the field last year. He had a torn labrum or something, some kind of shoulder problem of significance, I guess his non-throwing shoulder. Still going to be something that would be an impediment to any kind of comfort that you would have standing back there in the pocket while 300-pound guys that run 4.340s are coming at you through a porous offensive line. And, he did everything he could. I mean, he played the entire season. And then the Browns, after investing a number one pick in, 4 years of Baker Mayfield, or 5, said, sayonara, man. And he saw it coming. And then they go and get Deshaun Watson, which was the blockbuster that took place late last week. So your thoughts, A, on just being, well-compensated piece of meat and with a lot of commercials. But, they had no sympathy or empathy for the fact that the guy, did everything he could last year while obviously in need of surgery immediately after the season. There was no loyalty, and no respect given to the fact that this guy was dedicated to what they were trying to do a year ago.
Yeah, it seems like that's the way organizations on the outside, for sure, the way we perceive it, it looks that way. I don't know if it's truly that way on the inside, but on the outside, it sure does look that way.
Very callous.
The guy did everything he could possibly do. They didn't win enough, but they weren't a very good football team. They kept changing, what their identity was going to be. And then Baker was injured. He didn't play up to his standard. And now he's kind of on the outside looking in, because as you look around the landscape of the National Football League, I didn't think Matt Ryan was going to leave the Falcons. I figured he'd be a Falcon until he retires.
Yeah.
Carson Wentz is on his 3rd team. And a few years back in Philly, you think that guy's going to be a 10-year quarterback for the Philadelphia Eagles, right?
Yeah.
You never know what the next play or the next game or the next year is going to bring. But for guys like Baker, he's probably got one or two, maybe one destination to potentially start in Seattle. But other than that, I don't know where he's going to challenge to be the guy. It's tough. It's tough out there, but at least he has the luxury of being the first pick overall, and he has that to kind of fall back on. And if he gets another opportunity, which I'm sure he will, he's going to have another chance to kind of resurrect that good feeling about Baker Mayfield and what we saw him as a collegiate athlete, and how we saw him when he was healthy move around the NFL and be able to make plays and do all the things a number one overall draft choice should do.
For me, it was holy Johnny Manziel. I'm watching this guy, try, and here's Cleveland. To make a change is one thing. Now, what do you think? What is your thought about the whole Deshaun Watson?
Yeah,
I'll call it like
that's-
I'm, I'm a wrestling announcer, right? The situation.
Yeah.
I feel like Gordon Soley putting it in that terminology, but the situation with Deshaun Watson, which as a free-thinking human being, not prejudging anything, the ink wasn't even dry yet on the order from the grand jury not to indict, and all of a sudden there were like 10 teams dangling, obviously money and all kinds of compensation in front of Watson and the Houston Texans. You would say that if you get a star quarterback in his prime, I mean, if Danny had been traded in his prime, Dan Marino, would he be worth 3 first-round picks? Of course.
Yeah.
But what did you think of the whole thing? Because it still is unclear whether or not the NFL is going to step in. But I would imagine, as I was talking about with Lubie earlier in the show, I mean, you would think, what is it, Haslam? Is that the guy? Not
Jimmy,
Udonis, but
he's
Jimmy
in
Haslam.
Cleveland.
Yeah, the piece of work.
That owns the Cleveland
Yeah.
Browns. And, he's probably on pretty good terms with Raj because he seems like a fairly decent guy. And, do you think he called old Raj Goodell and said, hey, listen, you're not going to do anything about this kid, are you? I mean, wouldn't you want to know that before you gave him like $300 million over the next couple of seasons and traded away whatever it was that you had that was going to be, worth, trying to, salvage some kind of a future. To get a guy that he could be great. I mean, he should prosper there in Cleveland, should he not? If nothing happens in terms of suspension.
Well, Amari Cooper is the move that I would say that probably prompted them to even delve into further to go get Deshaun Watson, because you've got a guy now that can change a game on the outside.
Yeah,
you need that guy at quarterback, and Deshaun Watson, before all this legal problems happened a couple of years back, you would consider him top 5, top
Yes.
6, right? Quarterback.
He was doing great.
League.
Yeah, and on a poor team also.
Right. And on a team that he probably needed to do that. He probably needed to throw the football more. So now you bring him into a situation where, that conference and that division primarily is, anybody. Cincinnati's like the team to beat now, but are they going to be able to do that again? You always have your doubts about a team that comes out of nowhere and all of a sudden, they're gangbusters. They're going to make a few changes in the offseason. Well, any of those teams, Baltimore could do it. Pittsburgh, has to do it. And obviously Cleveland has done it now with the move at quarterback and wideout. They're trying to, knock Cincinnati down. And you do that with a talent like Deshaun Watson. Now, off the field, you've got plenty of on your plate in terms of, is he going to be able to get on the football field to be able to throw a pass for the Cleveland Browns? But you're right, Defo. The way the league is today, it's just the red meat, and as soon as they got the quasi green light, it was yellow. It's going to go.
Yeah.
It's going to go, and everybody steps on the gas and they're off to the races to try to sign a guy that may not have an immediate future or at least an unclear future in the National Football League.
And I don't know where they stand on this anymore because the policy has been so inconsistent about sexual assault and spousal abuse and all of the different stuff that, unfortunately, is a persistent problem. May not be rampant throughout the league, but, they've had consistent problems with it. To have 22, I guess it is, 23 civil lawsuits against a guy, all alleging the same thing. That there was, some form of sexual assault being orchestrated and executed by this guy who, the league is always touting the fact. I mean, they got the pink out there for breast cancer research. Everybody's wearing pink shoes, and that's great to try and celebrate and bring attention to all these women's causes. But what kind of hypocrisy would that be if they allowed this guy to play and there was even the slightest implication that even one of these alleged victims was telling the truth?
Yeah, I think the league's got their hands full in terms of, you penalize a guy that put $1,500 on a parlay. He was bored.
He's out for the year.
He's done for the year.
I put more than that through the horse book at the one afternoon.
More fell out of your pocket going to the window, Defo.
No doubt.
And and now you've got a guy that has 22 civil lawsuits, and it's just like, let's sign him for $300 million, and he's going to be one of the guys you talk about every time you turn on the TV because he's one of the stars of the league.
Well, I'm sure the lawyer, who I believe has all of these civil cases, and has been, at various press conferences addressing this whole thing from the other side, he was probably thrilled to see that contract signed. I would imagine that, and a giant portion of guaranteed money. But and it's interesting though. So the Browns then, do they become a contender? In your opinion, or were they won already? And the other thing that's curious to me, I always liked Jarvis Landry, John Kajemi.
Me
I
too.
don't know what's the story. I mean, why would you, if you were going to make these moves, why would you let this guy split from Cleveland? And I thought he gave everything he had to the Cleveland Browns.
I think that was more of a money issue than talent issue. I mean, Jarvis has played almost every snap until this year. Since he set foot from LSU to the Miami Dolphins and then the Cleveland Browns. He had a couple of injuries this year, but that's a guy that you want on your team. I think it was more of a let's release. Maybe we can bring him back if nobody picks him up at a lesser amount, because they've had to dole out so much cash in this Deshaun Watson deal. They got to start trimming in other places. They sign Amari Cooper. He's a nice auxiliary piece to have on the inside. But at the price tag he was at, maybe it was a little bit too much for what they could afford. So they let him go, and hoping they could get either him or someone like him in return, either later in free agency or through the draft.
All right, this comes under the heading, John Kajemi, and this is the reason we have you on the show, of Explain It to Me, Lucy. All right. I mean, Matt Ryan has another year or two left in the National Football League at any kind of reasonably competitive level. Maybe he could pull a Brady. I don't know, but he had a good season last year. You're the Falcons. You're going to take a $40 million dead money cap hit.
Yeah.
By trading this guy, or sending him. I guess they traded him to Indianapolis. I don't know what they got back in return. No, third-round pick. So nothing of any great significance to take this cap hit, which they then go out and sign Marcus Mariota. We've seen Marcus. I mean, he has flashes here and there where you're thinking, all right, this guy's okay. But more often than not, he reverts back to being what he is, which is Marcus Mariota, a guy that, is not going to be a quarterback capable of. And I know the whole Trent Dilfer thing ruined this line of thought, but you don't think of Marcus Mariota carrying the Atlanta Falcons to the Super Bowl if Matt Ryan couldn't win one, and so why wouldn't you just play the guy the last couple of years of his career or whatever he had left on this contract, so you wouldn't have to eat the money now, if then you're going to turn around and sign Marcus Mariota and basically tell your fans, hey, listen, we're not going to do much this year.
All I can do is agree with you, Defo. I don't understand it either.
Yeah? Okay.
I mean, and actually the Falcons were quite competitive last year. They
had a shot.
The last week of the NFL season, with a chance to get into the playoffs with Matt Ryan playing quarterback. They go out and they get a game changer at tight end. They have enough, around him and as an offense, decent defense. But you're right. It's not like the Ravens defense is going to start for the Atlanta Falcons in your scenario with Trent Dilfer. That's a team that's not going to beat anybody just on the defensive side of the ball. So you bring in Marcus Mariota, but you have the crutch of the money that's going to carry over it's going to linger for years, a couple of seasons. Why not let, probably the most famous Falcon, through his tenure that's ever worn the jersey, let him finish out as a Falcon and get somebody in the draft, that you're going to, if you think you're going to be 500 or worse, what are you going to be with Marcus Mariota in this, basically the same team? Are you going to challenge for the playoffs, or are you going to be kind of a 500 football team? I think the latter.
Doesn't make sense unless Ryan himself was, saying,
"Hey,
please, guys, do me a favor." You would think he would want to retire. I mean, how rare is it that a guy gets to play his whole career in one spot? Right. And he's been around a long time. I mean, Matty Ice, has been in the league upwards. Is it 15 years that he's been around?
At least, yeah.
That was like in the Jake Long draft with Bill Parcells as the head of the Miami Dolphins, and he went with the left tackle. Yeah.
It was like mid-2000s, yep.
Wow. So, I mean, I would think that if you were going to have to You can't do
Gosh, I
anything with
can't
the
remember.
capital. Yeah, I mean you're compromised on your cap, which I don't know. I mean you're not going to be able to go in excess of it. So why would you put $40 million worth of dead money on yourself when you now have a quarterback that may end up doing something with Indy because Wentz wasn't quite the answer there, but Matt Ryan would have made a big difference with that team. I would think.
I would think so too. You have stability. You've got a guy. I watched him practice down here for 3 days before the Dolphins played in the preseason, and you could tell the difference between anybody else on their roster, anybody else on either team, really, and Matt Ryan. I mean, Matt Ryan was clearly the best quarterback on the field. It didn't matter if another team came out and started practicing, unless it was Tampa Bay or somebody like that.
Yeah.
I mean, Matt Ryan still had a live arm. He still was accurate with the football. It came out on time. Maybe he's lost a step in his escapability, but that's not what he's doing right now. He's beating you by getting the football out accurately and being able to put pressure on opposing defenses with his right arm. So he still does that at a pretty high level. You take him to Indy with a great running game, a good offensive line, and a hell of a defense. He's got a better chance to win in Indy than Atlanta does with Marcus Mariota playing quarterback there.
All right, a little clarity on a quarterback carousel. John Kajemi with us here. And, of course, John's appearance every week brought to you by Jimmy Johnson's Big Chill, mile marker 104. It's funny because we were talking to Brett Tesser, the agent of the Stars on the show. I think you know Brett. And he was on his way down to the Keys with his family. And, the seas were kicking up like 3 to 5 feet, maybe even 5 to 7. It was very windy. And, he had his snorkeling trip canceled, and he was debating whether to take the family out on what would have been like the Poseidon Adventure or Perfect Storm, fishing a couple of days. I said, Brad, what are you wasting your time with all of this thought for? I mean, you're thinking like you're negotiating a contract with Mike Tannenbaum or something. Just stop at Jimmy Johnson's Big Chill, mile marker 104. That'll take care of the whole vacation, especially if you can get involved in some of those absolutely glamorous, high-end accommodations they have there, John.
Yeah, I hope he took you up on that because it is. It's a really a nice family atmosphere. You can kind of go and hang out at the pool, hang out at the tiki bar, relax. If sports is your thing, the sports bar is incredible, especially with this March Madness going on. A lot of games with the NIT and the NCAA Sweet 16 and the Elite 8 coming up. So I think it's just a great spot, not only for food and drink, but just to kick back and relax. And if you can find a way to get accommodations, because there's only 6 units, but it's a spectacular place to kind of spend the weekend and just relax. And you're going to gain probably 4 to 5 pounds on the conservative side, because Dominic's going to serve a feast, and Larry and Amanda does such a good job taking care of you. But that's the spot to go. Or Upper Keys, mile marker 104. Jimmy Johnson's Big Chill, and I'm sure Jimmy's going to be hanging out there this springtime. This is his time to kind of shine, so you might even bump into Coach.
Now, did you get any reports about watching the NCAA basketball tournament in the remodeled sports bar there from your brother or anybody that you're close with? Because I would imagine it was rocking. I mean, the Keys, you figured laid back, but when there's a big sporting event, you have to find a place that still leaves you with that Keys atmosphere feeling, and yet where you can be like an insane and overly enthusiastic sports fan.
Yeah, certain nights you had plenty of room to kind of relax, and certain nights it was standing room only because it was hopping in there. Yeah, it's a great time of year with the Masters coming up as well. To be in that sports bar, everywhere you look, you're watching one sporting event or another that's happening that weekend. So great food, great atmosphere, cold drinks, and beautiful Bayside views. So that's the place to be.
I think I'm going with Hovland to win the Masters, right? Victor Hovland.
That's a good pick. That's a good pick.
Guy's been steady, huh?
Yeah, he has been.
Steady as a rock. Does he break through here in the Masters after kind of falling a little bit off the pace there? And, what was our first venture? And now you're all in, right, on the golf pool again?
You keep doing it.
Man, I don't know, Defo. I let you guys down.
You had good instincts.
Weather wasn't your fault. You can't blame the freaking wind.
Well, we got screwed there. I mean, with the draw. That's going to happen, though, and that's all part of it, right?
Yeah, that's true.
You have to have a lot of luck in these things. But, I mean, what are you looking at? I mean, are you thinking Masters yet? Because I kept looking at these odds to win the Masters while I was in Atlantic City, and I was thinking I probably should plunge here, and if I cash, that'll give me reason to come back.
Did you take anybody? besides Hovland?
I didn't. I'm thinking you always have to consider the usual suspects like Justin Thomas. I mean, he's due to
Yeah.
do something there. But then, how do you leave out these European schminks that guys like Wiesthuizen and Paul Casey and all of these guys that somehow show up big. I mean, I'd even bet on Ernie Els if he was in the field.
Ernie Els.
Easy Ernie.
Ernie's
Is he in the field there? He won a Masters, didn't he? Doesn't he qualify on a lifetime pass? Yeah. Does he go? Is he playing like he was Arnie or, back in the day when Arnie used to shoot a couple of 87s and then they'd wheel him off the course?
He's killing everybody on the Champions Tour.
Yeah, on the senior tour.
Yeah, he's doing all right there.
He is.
The German guy who
Bernard Longer.
Longer, man. Wow. He's a
like
phenomenon, isn't he? He is
old, and he shoots his score. He shoots his age. I mean, the guy's phenomenal.
And with that stupid belly button putter, I don't know. Did you ever use one of those? I hope not. I mean, even
no,
if your
I
back
didn't.
was
I wasn't.
broken.
I never got to that point. No, I couldn't do that. I don't know why.
How can anybody putt with that thing?
He does quite well with it, Defo.
I mean, there were others, right? Remember, it was popular there for a while.
It was.
And then people started going away from it. And you're thinking that's one thing if your back has been in traction,
Right.
like you were Freddie Couples. Did Couples even use that? I
don't
guess he
think
did.
so.
Yeah.
He used a longer putter, but not a stand-up, not the sweeper.
Yeah, I can't imagine. I mean, why not just take a sledgehammer out or, some sort of croquet mallet? A polo was, I mean, it looks like the guy's playing polo. It's crazy. All right, we're coming back with more with Jack and Jimmy. There's more stuff happening around the National Football League and the world of sport. Did you watch any of the tournament? I know you're a big sports fan in general.
Yeah, I watched a little bit of it. Yeah.
Yeah?
A lot of good stuff.
What do you think of this Kane story? I mean, they would
It's
be
awesome.
Cinderella if.
I mean, they put it on him. I didn't think they were. I watched them periodically during the season, but they put it on him in the tournament, and they got a tough team because Texas Tech could kind of go. They're very similar, but I think the Canes are on a roll that they could get past Texas Tech. They could do some damage and win it all.
Yeah, they got Iowa State coming up, which was.
Was that?
Another...
I'm sorry.
Iowa State. Texas Tech will be scared. Iowa State is one where they have a shot. Then the Elite Eight. That's gonna be a different story.
Well, yeah, I mean, they would have to what? Who's left in that?
I don't know who is.
Kansas and Providence are the two teams,
right? And they're in Chicago, right?
Yes,
in Chicago. Yeah. So, as Leslie Visser pointed out to us yesterday, the sideline reporter, I think it was Michelle Tafoya or somebody like that. No, Tafoya retired, right?
Yeah,
whoever it was, Tracy Wilson. Yeah, she said it was the Cyclones and the Hurricanes in the Windy City. Nice, right? I mean, that's a good piece of color analysis. How come she's not getting $50 million for that? Incredible. All right, back with more with Jack and Jimmy. We'll continue our talk about professional football here with John in just a moment. I'm Jeff Deforrest. That is Mike Lubitz, and we're on ION Channel all around the world, streaming audio and video. And you can also just Google the Defo Show. And on that, yesterday, you would love it. I mean, the talk we had, conversation with Jim Larinaga was great. I mean, I love this about, I don't know, you had a lot of great coaches in your lifetime, the great George Smith in high school. And who was the coach at Pitt when you were playing there?
Well, Jackie Sherrill was the first guy that recruited me, and then Foge Fazio was there, yeah.
Were you there when he castrated the bull?
That was at a different, that was at Mississippi State, I think, or Texas A&M, one of the two. Yeah, I think it was at Mississippi State.
How do you think that would have impacted a young, impressionable 19-year-old Jimmy?
I don't know.
Watch that. Yeah. Would it have motivated you to go out and play harder? I don't know.
I think there would have been a lot of guys turning around, kind of shrunk shoulders and going, man, did he just do that? Yeah.
I'd almost rather listen to the Tebow speech.
No, I think I would have taken the castrated bull. Yeah.
I would rather be castrated than listen to the Tebow speech, which I have been. I mean, emasculated at the very least by a variety of women who have taken me, for all I'm worth, and which wasn't much, but nonetheless, here we are, still working, Jack and Jimmy. Back with more here on ION Channel in a moment. Now that.
The time.
It's 8:48.
Tony Segreto here. Let me ask you a question. What do you look for when you go out to eat? Good food, obviously, friendly atmosphere, not too loud, but good energy, reasonable prices, and a place where you feel comfortable. You're talking about the Texas Roadhouse. Good for a family, good for a date, or just a night out for yourself, and prices that will make you extremely happy. Their ribs unmatched, steaks hand cut every day, Everything, and I mean everything, is made on site, including their incredible bread. Trust me when I tell you, Texas Roadhouse, your restaurant, your destination when you say, where should we go and eat tonight?
From the newly renovated sports bar to the beautiful bayside views captured at the Tiki Bar, Jimmy Johnson's Big Chill has it all. Located at mile marker 104, the Big Chill also offers waterfront dining while experiencing breathtaking sunset views of the Florida Keys. It's simply the hottest spot in the Keys to cool off. That's Jimmy Johnson's Big Chill at mile marker 104 in Key Largo. For more information, call today at 305-453-9066.
Any time of year, things can happen to your home or business, and the insurance company can be your friend, but they also can be your enemy. Horizon Public Adjusters, Justina Testa, are here for you to help this process go so much easier. 7 to 10 times more money recovered with a public adjuster than if you went on your own. If there's no recovery, there's no fee. Before you call your insurance company, call Horizon Public Adjusters and Justina Testa at 954-809-8752.
Miami Dolphins with John Congemi, and that's brought to you by Jimmy Johnson's Big Chill in the Keys, and we're looking very much forward to doing some broadcasts there. I think we're going to head down there like once a month during the football season. I have to ask you this, and feel free to, not necessarily spill the beans from a personal standpoint to your good friend Dan Marino. Does he experience, or did he ever experience, nightmares about handing the ball off to Kareem Abdul-Jabbar that one year when Jimmy insisted on running the ball on every play? And it was always, the announcer, I think it was Ron St. John, was a stadium announcer back then, and you could hear him say, hand off to Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, gain of 1, 2nd and 9. Hand off to Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, gain of 1, 3rd and 8. Did he ever talk about that?
No, he's never really talked about that, Defo. But you're right. I think they did have that on loop at whatever the stadium was called at that time.
It was 1 yard every time. And it was a generous 1 yard they were giving him statistically.
Enjoy your trip to work with lots of laughs thanks to Defo and Lubie. Now on the Defo Show.
Welcome back to the show, and good to have John Congemi with us. Usually joins us every Monday with his NFL insight, and, I just enjoy having a guy this good-looking on the program here. It certainly is a pleasant surprise for Jack Namer to see somebody that actually looks good on screen here. But good to have you on. Mike Lubitz, I'm Jeff Deforrest, the Defo Show. John Congemi, brought to you by Jimmy Johnson's Big Chill, mile marker 104 in Key Largo. We got a lot of mileage out of that one trip down there. We're going to have to get down there again.
Yeah, exactly.
Because I visualize things, and that's the only way I can remember anything anymore. But I do have a clear picture of us sitting around a table there, just BSing with Jimmy. And it was one of the most enjoyable hours at that point. It was a radio program that I've done. And great people are involved with you and Leslie Visser. The professor was out there on the scene. We just had nothing but a good time, and looking very much forward to doing it again. That was great.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun. It was very relaxed, kind of a chill atmosphere, and had a great time with Coach and Leslie and you guys. So we definitely have to get back down there. And I just think it would be kind of cool to do it, as the weather is still a little, brisk in the morning and get a little breeze down in the upper.
Oh, yeah.
So yeah, that would be fun to do.
Yeah, if we're going to do it outside, we were inside that time in a great restaurant they have. But, to be schwitzing out there, Jimmy's on a show. You're constantly going in front and wiping sweat off. You look like you're Patrick Ewing, in the third quarter, going to the free throw line for the Knicks back in the days of the wars with the Miami Heat. And our Moses Malone. Anybody that was a big schwitzer.
Yep.
Just not a pleasant thing. But, no, we're looking forward to being down there because it was a gas. All right, and the time we have left, John Congemi, some teams have been impressive in the offseason and have, given you the impression that not only are they serious about winning, but they have made definitive moves that can help them get there. I guess San Diego, or not San Diego, but the LA Chargers come to mind. Yeah, they made a couple of stud moves defensively. You would have to think that Indianapolis, as we discussed earlier, is going to be better off with a healthy Matt Ryan versus what seemed to be a somewhat impaired and compromised Carson Wentz during the course of the season. They were getting pretty close. Certainly, you would have to look at the Cleveland Browns and think, that's a giant step forward in terms of a quarterback who makes a tangible difference versus a guy like Baker Mayfield, who at times looked really good, but at times you saw the limitations of this guy or some of the imperfections. And Miami, seems to have followed some kind of sound program. So, what do you see? I mean, what teams really, really impressed you with what they've done so far in the offseason?
I think the Raiders getting
nice.
a
All
pass
right.
rusher and getting Adams on the outside. I think that fits their ammo. I mean, it's an arms race in the AFC West, right? Every team,
Yes.
Juju Schuster goes to Kansas City, so they get another wide receiver that can beat you man to man, catch a pass, a 5-yarder, and take it 75 yards. So you mentioned the Chargers, the Broncos. They get Wilson at quarterback, so they're going to be better. That whoever, I would just put those 4 teams in the playoffs, and then whoever else has the best record in the AFC can battle it out, right?
Yeah.
2 of those teams, or at least one of those teams, are going to be on the short end, and they're going to be a good football team. I think the Bills getting Von Miller is a good move on the outside because you've got a guy that can actually dominate. You get Crowder on the outside to replace Beasley as their slot receiver. I think that's, either an upgrade or at least even for the Bills, another weapon for Josh Allen. So there are teams out there that have done a really good job in free agency. You never know in free agency. It's a flip of the coin. It's somebody else. There's a reason why guys are available, because maybe they don't fit either financially, medically, or just physically anymore in terms of getting it done on a week-to-week basis. But somebody's trash is somebody else's riches. So you're hoping that it turns into that for the Miami Dolphins, because they desperately needed to upgrade and get pieces in the right spot on the offensive line to help their quarterback. Now, it almost seems like it's up to the quarterback. If he can't get it done, it may be this is a really good test for Tua Tagovailoa in this year, depending on what else the moves are, right? The defense seems like it's intact. They've kept the coordinator. They've kept the pieces they need, signing Agba. The defensive secondary isn't going to change much. So on offense, you're moving around pieces of the puzzle up front, but you still have a question mark. Is he the guy? And you're hoping that he's that guy.
Well, and at least, what the Dolphins did as an organization in trying to find that out and answer that question ultimately, makes sense. It looks like they've gone in a positive direction in terms of, as we were discussing earlier, also having a plan and trying to implement it and putting personnel into the equation that can help them do new things and maybe some more creative things offensively in the running game, which, as Lubie pointed out, I mean, if you don't have a quarterback that's just going to fire the ball 60 yards down the field several times a game and complete a few of them, then, it takes some of the heat off the guy. And, he is a very accurate passer. So you might be able to improve in other ways without necessarily having that, one gold mine find.
Right.
Of a quarterback on your roster. And Tua may be serviceable in that category. And maybe even better than that. It's possible. But at least it seems like there's a blueprint there. And it's not the one that's destined for failure, like the one that the Marlins always put in play, which is we're going to get rid of all of our big stars, go young, get some young pitchers, and then, and then those guys eventually become sort of star caliber themselves before they ever win. And then they dump them all and do it all again.
Yeah, so, and this is really the first
myth
time
of the Sisyphus, I think that's called. Yes,
and this is the first time the Dolphins have really done it this way. Usually, you have to have failure to have change.
Yeah.
The Dolphins had success and changed. So if this doesn't work, they'll be painting the walls again a different color in 3 years, and we'll be doing it all over again. But normally, you have failure to get to this point. The Dolphins were actually trending in the right direction, changed course, and you hope they did it for the betterment of the quarterback and the organization, and they can get from 9-10 to 11-12 and get into the playoffs.
Dare I mention, as we close things out, it's flown by as usual, John Kajemi. Dare I mention our dear friend Tommy Fox as we try to figure out what we're doing with the Jimmy Johnson
early April
thing.
Come on, let's 2 weeks. Let's start
April. How about early April?
Yeah, let's do it right around.
We don't want to be schwitzing. Remember, we don't want to be schwitzing. We don't have to have towels wrapped around our neck there, like we're Jerry Tarkanian or something. I mean, maybe eating it. But we want to be able to. Obviously, if we're inside there, it's all good.
It
But
won't matter. Yeah.
yeah. So we can always fix that problem. But it'd be a lot of fun. You know what? There are certain times that you've done stuff in this business, and you're thinking, wow. I mean, we retained a lot of good things from that one conversation
That's
down there with
right.
Jimmy Johnson, and it couldn't have been in a better place. Jimmy Johnson's Big Chill. I mean, it's his own joint. And then, probably the most amazing thing about that was hearing your brother and Larry Calvano sing with the band there.
Yeah.
Were they doing some U2? I mean, they were throwing a little U2 in there, which is not easy.
The weekends are crazy down at the Big Chill, especially when those two get on stage and start singing and playing the guitar. All bets are off at that point.
Now, does your dad play an instrument? Because he would have fit right in with the whole vibe if he just got up there and started blowing like a mean saxophone.
I would put my dad on tambourine with a headband. I think that would be a good, just off the side,
There's a lot to be said for that, though. I mean,
that's right.
Maybe a couple of congas, just
hey,
bang out a little beat.
You can miss a couple songs nobody knows, right?
All right, we enjoyed it very much, John Kajemi. It's always a pleasure, my friend. It was great seeing you.
That was fun, guys.
We'll do it again on Monday of next week and get you back in your regular slot there. Thank you so much for flip-flopping there with Tony Segreto, who this guy's got obligations on top of obligations.
Anything for Tony.
Yeah. For you, Tony. That's what I was saying all week in Atlantic City. Yeah, Tony, that drink's for you. Don't worry. No, yeah, I like the seat. All right, thanks so much, John. Always a pleasure, my friend. We'll talk to you again next week. All right, we had a lot of fun being with you guys all morning long, and we'll do it again tomorrow. Oh, yes. I mean, we're talking Hialeah Park Trivia Challenge.
Yes.
So that'll be a lot of fun. Dave Gurgles Gurgly, and I don't know. Status of the Polyman still remains unknown.
And,
but I did hear an update on the Polyman, and he has vowed to come back in the very near future. He's ready to go. I'm telling you, he's ready to go.
I love the man. I'm excited to see him whenever he's here.
He makes a big difference in that show. He really does. He's a brilliant presence there. All right, so we'll have that for you tomorrow. Hialeah Park Trivia Challenge. Lenny the Chronic and all of the guys, Andy out there. Get your, Ron is always a frequent caller and contestant on the show. Yep. Get your brains in gear and, get everything lubricated and ready to go. And, I don't necessarily mean that in that sense, Libby. I know where your mind went. Right in the gutter.
Your brain working.
Yeah, get your brain moving. Yeah. Get it thinking. Put your thinking cap on, and we'll have the trivia challenge for you tomorrow, among other things. And we will see you tomorrow at 7 in the a.m. here on Ion Channel as we leave you know that.
The time.
It's 9:01.
Let's go to eat a damn snack.
Look what they done to my show.